Again, it just tells the story of it's the evil and the ugliness of people's hearts these days is everywhere.
This is Franky Rose's Think Tank. Here's your host, Franky Rose.
Well, good morning, Think Tankers. We are on day 7. So there's a little bit of confusion as to when today is going to start. Yesterday, the judge said that she was going to bump it up because they were having problems getting there on time. I'm not sure. I looked around today and everyone is still set for the same time as normal. So I'll just keep it here. We can chit chat as we're going through and see what she's doing today, I guess. Hey, Ruthie. Hello, Dingo. Good to see you guys bright and early. Sorry about the confusion. I heard her at one point say that her startup time was moving. And like I say, I look around and everyone's set for the same time frame. So here we are. Let me see. Yeah, I have no idea what she's doing. I have no idea, this woman. So what do you think? Do you think John O'Keefe's family is seeing the ish show that is going on? None of these cops can remember anything. They've got very selective memory. They've hung out in that house together. They've hung out they've gone drinking together. The last one said that he literally got into like a fist fight to help out one of these family members. It's just like, are you kidding me already? How much more do you need? And then you've got Auntie Bev, who is knowing a lot of these people as well. And, I was watching last night, The Lawyer You Know, and big shout out. I don't usually watch him. I'm not even sure why I don't, but I might start because he really does a good breakdown. I guess I just thought, okay, pretty face. I'm not going to want to watch that guy. But no, he's actually got some knowledge behind him. Hello, Carrie. Good morning. Waiting for Auntie Bev to figure out her ish, guys. So, yeah, when it comes to, she even made a clause at one point because they were going back and just showing that there was some familiarity with this family. She has to say, okay, everybody, this was 22 years ago. Do with it what you want. She doesn't have to keep spouting all the way through this. Like, I don't know where she got her. I don't know what you get to sit on that. I know it takes a lot to sit on the bench, but how the hell did she get to where she is? Did she find it in like a pink popcorn box or a cereal box? Because it's not just us that are going, what? Literally, legal analysis on these different platforms are saying the same thing as us. And I'm not sure. I don't think any of us have got degrees in this particular area. Not that we don't have degrees, but in law, right? I think she thinks that we're all dummies. Yeah, good question. Which planet are we going to visit today? I don't know. And, we talked a little bit. Do you think the FBI is paying attention to what is going on, being that they are really watching this case closely, like watching the people that are involved? Do you think that they are watching as well as we hope they are? I mean, people are just going in. All righty. Maybe we'll be going at top of the hour still. Oh, right, Ruthie? It's disheartening to watch because we're sitting back here and we can't do anything when we wanna be sitting here going, "Liar!" and not loud enough that she can hear it. Like, the world does see what she's doing. This has gone international. Yeah, Melanie Little's she's got lots to say as far as this goes. You betcha. Oh, they do. I mean, if looks could unalive that brother, the way he was looking at her yesterday was almost scary. You're sitting there thinking that, hoping that they're seeing a little bit of what's going on here, but I don't even know. That's not even safe. So what the hell? What the hell is that? You know, if anything happens that someone jumps her, I'd like to see Auntie Bev have to deal with that, with her deal with the legal ramifications of putting a defendant within literally arm's reach of the family. I have never seen this. That brother of his, of John O'Keefe's, could literally just bend that close. That close. It's just whoa. And then they've got Karen Reed's family sitting further away, where I think the O'Keefe family should be. I don't think it's a safe setup. I'm trying to get comfy here, guys. And, we all want to have faith in the legal system, and we're not seeing it. Just whoa. Good morning, JJ. Hello, hello. Okay, let me get kind of fixed up here a bit more. I don't know why I don't just leave this thing alone. It gets in my way. If I could, I'd have it set up on the other side, but I can't. So let's see how that works. Gets in my way. I think he's going to have to, Dingo. I think it's going to happen. I really do. I don't know how. Well, I don't know how the judge is going to be able to keep them from calling in a coroner, but I mean, who knows with her, right? She's just going above her pay grade. And we don't sit here and believe every word that's coming out of her mouth like she would, I'm assuming, would like to have it. I'd like to stand in front of Bev in the dock, terrifying, and I've stood in front of some bad ones. Olay. Let's hope that happens, Carrie. Let's hope, because she really put that on the back burner. Now, I don't know if that's proper or not. I don't know if it's something like, in my mind, it should have been dealt with right away, but what do I know? I mean, I know nothing. Especially when we go state to state to state to state and all the different laws for each state. It's the most confusing thing ever. I don't know how people keep it straight. How do you not cross a state line and not get into all sorts of trouble because, I mean, it was illegal 2 seconds, or it was legal 2 seconds ago, just back there. Oh, is she back up today? Well, here we go. Here we go. Buckle up, Bev. We are watching you. I wonder if she goes home, puts her feet up and watches to see what the world is thinking. You know, does she take the time? She should. Caitlin is the woman that was inviting John O'Keefe back to that house. And Caitlin is the one that they're saying was friends with the EMT. And the EMT kept going, I don't recall. I don't recall. Oh, a cow. Like, come on. I'm not sure. Firefighter, EMT girl. I'm not sure. Yeah. Oh, not a friend, just kind of, acquaintances over the, yeah. That one there with the pointy nose. That should be growing. Pinocchio. Well, it's 5 after 7, so what is going on, Bev? I mean, she just doesn't care. All she cares about is getting this case to sway the way she wants to, in my personal opinion. Well, good morning, Brat. Good to see you first thing, bright and early. We're waiting for the Ish show to start. Yeah. Oh, and doing all sorts of things. What beach is that? Oh, I don't recall. Who were you with? Oh, I don't recall. Do you know when this was? I don't recall. Do you know Caitlin for how long? I don't recall. It's just, oh my God. Bright and early or still up late? Dingo's still up late. Oh, well, we made it to 7 a.m. already here. Bright and early or still up late? If I was still up, I'd probably have a barf bucket sitting beside me. I don't do late anymore. It makes me feel sick. It's probably just that nasty feeling I remember from when I did drink. Free hangover for all. That's what I thought. That's what I thought. I thought these rock and rollers like Tony didn't get up until like the booze is worn off. But no, Tony's a smart rock and roller. You don't touch that shite either. It was good when we were young, right? She might redefine friend versus acquaintance. Now, that I could see. I could see Bev taking that to a point where she tries to turn it into a thing in her courtroom. Literally. I can't get this thing to lay properly. I'm sorry, I'm all over the place. Don't go to bed till 9 or 10 a.m. No. No. I'm bad. I hit the couch or wherever I'm planting myself. About 7 o'clock is when I start to like, and it doesn't take long. Like I'm asleep. I'm in front of that TV sound asleep, all crunched up until it's like, oh my God, go to bed, girl. Yeah, even the thought of drinking anymore gives me a hangover. Oh, guys, I hear movement. That's a good thing I changed the time because obviously, yeah, my son's like that too, Tony. Total night owl. Okay, guys. Ish is about to hit the fan again. I'm going to mute out for a couple minutes, have a puff, and I'll be right back.
Yay. All persons have any business before the Honorable General County, Justice of the Norfolk Superior Court in Flood County of Norfolk. Your name, give your attendance, you shall be heard. God save the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. The court is now open. You may be seated.
22117, the Commonwealth versus Karen Reed. Can I have counsel identify themselves, please?
Adam Lally for the Commonwealth. Good morning, Your Honor.
Good morning, Mr. Lally.
Good morning, Your Honor. Laura McLaughlin for the
Good
Commonwealth.
morning, Ms. McLaughlin.
Good morning, Your Honor. Alan Jackson from Ms. Reed.
Good morning, Mr. Jackson.
Good morning, Your Honor. Elizabeth Little, also for Ms. Reed.
Good morning, Ms. Little.
Good morning, Your Honor. David Unetti for Karen Reed.
Good morning, Mr. Unetti. Good morning, Ms. Reed. Good morning, Jones. This is better. It's a better start. I appreciate everybody being ready to start promptly today. I do have those 3 questions to ask you. Was anyone
Promptly.
able to follow my instructions and refrain from discussing this case with anyone since we left yesterday? Everyone said yes or nodded affirmatively. Were you also able to follow the instruction and refrain from doing any independent research or investigation into this case? Everyone said yes or nodded affirmatively. Did anyone happen to see, hear, read anything about this case since we left yesterday? Everyone said no or should. Okay.
10 minutes late.
We bring
and that's
Lieutenant
on
Ray in,
time.
please.
Tony.
Michelle, the never change report during the case now and here, the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Morning.
Morning.
Okay, whenever you're ready, Mr. Lally.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Morning, sir.
Morning, sir.
Picking up where we left off yesterday afternoon, Lieutenant, Ms. Gilman, if I could have Exhibit 41 back up on the screen. And Lieutenant, so we're about 2 hours, 10 minutes, and 58 seconds into this particular cruiser video. With respect to this video, if you could just run during where we are and what we're looking at here.
This is 1 Meadows Ave, Canton, Mass, John O'Keefe's residence.
And Ms. Gilman, if you could play this. Now, Lieutenant Ray, while this is up on the screen, if I could ask you to, you've reviewed this video since this date of January 29th, 2022, correct?
Yes.
And using the laser pointer in front of you, if you could direct the jury's attention to what, if anything, you noted in regard to the rear area of the vehicle in front of your cruiser.
This vehicle right here is Miss Reed's vehicle. I believe that vehicle there is Mr. O'Keefe's vehicle.
Zoom in on that.
And I didn't,
Tail light.
I didn't know it at the time, but I have since reviewed the,
Move to strike.
So let him finish his, you didn't know it at the time, but you have since what?
I have since reviewed this video and I can tell that there is a,
Okay, the objections. sustained.
Of course it is.
continue.
Now, during the course of
No, we just got to ask the question differently.
during the course of your well-being check, where is it around the residence?
We initially went up to one of the front doors. I believe it was the one on the right. And we rang the doorbell, knocked on the door, and we were seeing if we could raise anybody and get any response.
And
I think
during the
this
time
is
that
her
you were there,
parents'
Were
house.
you able to raise anybody and get any response?
No, sir.
And at some point subsequent to this, what, if anything, did you learn as to the whereabouts of the children at the time that you were at the residence at 8:23, approximately 8?
After we left and we weren't able to raise anybody, shortly thereafter, we subsequently we did find out that the children were staying with friends or family at this time.
So it is John's house.
And Lieutenant, if you know, approximately how long were you at the residence doing this well-being check?
5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes.
Ms. Gilman, if I could ask you to just bring the video forward to about 2 hours, 16 minutes, and 30 seconds.
I thought the driveway was situated different.
You can stop it there. Thank you. Now, with reference to that driveway area that was in front of your vehicle when you parked there, what, if anything, beyond sort of snow, ice, or things like that, did you know within the driveway itself?
Within the driveway itself, I noticed there's two vehicles in the driveway.
Anything on the ground that that you noted anything on the ground beyond snow? Did you know?
No, sir.
Hmm.
You know, may I have just one moment?
Sure.
Sure. Lover boy.
Now, sir, with reference to the residents of One Meadows Ave, are you familiar with there being a security system or a ring video system at that residence?
Yes, there is a ring camera system at that residence.
And subsequently to this date, have you seen that ring video?
Yes.
Ms. Gilman, if I could have Exhibit 6. If I could have video 159. Ms. Gilman, if I could ask you. Now, Lieutenant Ray, what's up on the screen? Do you recognize that?
Yes.
And what do you recognize that to be?
Recognize that to be the driveway of One Meadows Ave, and myself and Sergeant Lehan exiting our cruiser while in the driveway.
Ms. Gilman, if you could just play it through from there.
It doesn't even look like anything's broken. Okay, it makes more sense looking at his driveway from here. I wasn't understanding how she could have bumped that other car, but I understand better now. No. I would expect more. So this is after the big scary blizzard. And if you notice the other car, I think that's John O'Keefe's. Look at how very little snow there is on there. Very little snow. That was one hell of a blizzard. Sidewalks aren't even covered.
And Ms. Gilman, if I can have the next video 160. If you could just pause it for just a moment.
Where's
Now, again,
the
what's up on the
snow?
screen, Lieutenant, do you recognize that?
Yes.
What do you recognize it to be?
That's me entering, exiting the front of the residence, walking towards the driveway.
Ms. Gilman, if you could play it through.
It is too far, Tony. It's a good question. Look at that. You see the drifting over top of that sidewalk there? I mean, oh God, what would happen if there was a real blizzard? Wow.
Ms. Gilman, could I have Exhibit 5?
What is he trying to do here? What's he trying to show? That it didn't snow?
And from that, could I have video number 18?
It did not blizzard? Is that what he's trying to show us?
If you could just pause it there. Lieutenant, you recognize what's depicted up on the screen now?
Yes,
What do you recognize that to be?
one of the front doors to Mr. O'Keefe's house, and I'm entering the frame on the left.
And Ms. Gilman, if you could run it.
You can keep a knocking, but you can't come in. I hear you knocking, but you can't come in. Come on. They don't want you there. Go. Go.
Thank you. Ms. Gilman, if I could have the next video 19. Pause it there, Ms. Gilman.
Maybe if we go ring a different
Again, in
doorbell.
addition to going to the front door and sort of in the driveway area, where, if anywhere, are you going in this video now?
It looks like I'm heading towards this vantage point to the right, which if you're looking at the house from the front would be the left. To see if there's anything in plain view through the windows, if I could see anybody, any persons, any activity.
Ms. Gilman, if you could press play.
I think I'll just stand here for a minute and do nothing. I get paid just the same.
Thank you, Ms. Gilman.
What's the meaning for all
Take
this?
that down, Mr. Officer, if we could have the light back on.
I'm not quite sure how that makes a difference. And Bev just lets that go?
And Lieutenant Ray, just lastly, once you left residence of One Meadows Ave, where did you go?
Yeah.
I believe it went back to the police station.
Just one moment, Your Honor.
Yes.
Oh, we just went back to the police station. There was nothing at the scene to look at. Nothing.
I have no further questions for this witness, Your Honor.
Okay. Ms. Giannetti?
The defense has no questions.
Oh. Here we go. Are they not catching how John O'Keefe's brother is staring her down? Why are we catching it? And they're not.
Your next witness, Mr. Riley?
Yes, Your Honor. The Commonwealth call Mr. Michael Camerano to the stand.
It's true, JJ. Like, I don't know what the hell that was all about. And why she's allowing them to put something that's like that in. Why is the judge allowing that? No way would she allow that redundancy on the defense's side. Yeah, we need somebody to explain.
If I may,
this
while the
stuff.
witness is coming in, may we approach this
Sure.
procedural thing?
It could be proof they went to the house. That's about all it shows. That one brief video would have done that. It disturbs me seeing how close they are to her. Like, why is there not more protection for their defendants? Not just her, but any defendant? Yeah, that is what Lally seems to do. He's not an impressive lawyer, in my opinion. And Karen's got some pretty sharp lawyers. It really makes me wonder if anybody in this courthouse has ever dealt with anything like this in their past. Brother, I think that's his wife again. That might be a sister. And the mom and the dad is behind. That dad looks so sad. That's true, Tony. Wonder how Karen's family feels that they're so close to her. I was watching one part yesterday where Karen's team was trying to get something in and Bev denied it because she said, oh, it wasn't in on time. Well, it was in on time. She just didn't see it. But before, as Jackson was trying to get it in, she shut it down very fast. Well, the gasp that came out of Karen was unreal. And then the judge did realize that they just had not passed it on to her yet. It wasn't on time, but somebody on her side wasn't doing their due diligence and passing it along. Yep. I'm sure.
Why don't you step over there?
Even if Karen and even if they weren't getting
So,
along.
you understand the court and jury in the case now hearing the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you. Thank you. Just need you to really speak loudly into that microphone. Thank you.
Whenever you're ready, Mr. Lally.
Good morning, love.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Could you please state your name and spell your last name for the jury?
Michael Camerano, Camerano.
And where do you live, sir?
292 Mechanic Street in Canton.
So I'm going to ask you to keep your voice up, please, okay?
Sir, if you want that microphone to adjust around to whatever's comfortable, okay? And how long have you lived in Canton?
18 years.
And that residence you live at, who, if anyone, do you live there with?
My wife and 2 children.
And what's your wife's name?
Catherine,
And how old are your 2 children?
16 and 13.
And the 16-year-old, is that a boy or a girl?
Girl,
And your other child, is that a boy or a girl?
boy,
Now, your wife, how long have the 2 of you been married?
25 years.
And do you work, sir?
Yes.
What is it that you do for work?
Labor's union.
And does your wife work as well?
Correct.
And what does she do?
She's a nurse.
Sir, if I could turn your attention to January 28th, 2022. Recall that date, sir?
Yes.
And were you working that day?
Yes.
And do you recall what day of the week that was?
Friday?
And following work, what did you do after work?
I went home, did some stuff with the kids.
And during the time that you were home, who, if anyone, did you speak with, either via phone, text?
I was talking to John O'Keefe.
And with regard to John O'Keefe, how did you know John O'Keefe?
I met John 7 years ago.
And how was it that the two of you met?
We met through mutual friends, and then our kids became very friendly.
And the mutual friends through whom you met, who were they?
The Robertses,
And what are their first names?
Kurt and Kerry.
And starting with Kurt Roberts, how do you know Kurt Roberts?
I grew up with Kurt.
Where did the two of you grow up?
Milton?
So you've known Kurt Roberts most of your life, is that correct?
Correct.
And you mentioned that, so you have two children. How many children did Mr. O'Keefe have?
2.
And those two children, as far as their ages and genders, what were they in relation to your two children?
Same.
So 17-year-old girl.
13-year-old son, yes.
And were each of your two children friends with Mr. O'Keefe's niece and nephew?
Correct.
He just said so,
Now-
Lolly.
As far as friends were concerned, starting with your children and Mr. O'Keefe's niece and nephew, how close friends were they?
My daughter was extremely close.
And extremely close with John
Kaylee.
O'Keefe's Kaylee?
Yeah.
And with reference to your son and John O'Keefe's nephew, Patrick, what was sort of the nature of their relationship?
They were close also.
And as far as activities, what, if any, sort of activities did your kids do with Patrick and Kaylee?
Patrick and Michael played baseball together. Kaylee and Madeline played basketball. Soccer also.
And John O'Keefe, how would you describe your relationship with John O'Keefe?
We were close. We did a lot of stuff together. Pick up the kids, drop the kids off. We coordinated a lot of stuff together. We're friends.
And your residence versus, you're familiar with where Mr. O'Keefe lived, correct?
Yes.
Where did he live?
Meadows Ave.
And about how far away is Meadows Ave from where you live?
5 minutes.
Now, with regard to the girls, and by that I mean your daughter and John O'Keefe's niece, Kaylee, what, if anything, was going on with them on that particular day?
They both received acceptance letters to go to school.
And which school was that?
Bishop Fan?
Is that a private school?
Yes.
So at the time of this, in January 28th, 2022, what grade was your daughter and Kaylee Furbush?
8th grade.
And so this would have been going into 9th grade or high school, is that right?
Correct.
And what, if any, conversation did you have with Mr. O'Keefe in reference to that at some point in the afternoon?
We were both excited. They both received acceptance letters, and we wanted to get the kids together.
May I approach?
Yes.
Why does this matter, Lolly? John O'Keefe said they weren't getting along, so therefore she's guilty. Yeah, Lolly's not the best lawyer out there, is he? You think they would have got
I'm
someone
directing your
with that?
attention.
Show counsel.
Yeah, Lolly.
So I'm showing you the document.
Okay.
Just as far as specifically with reference to starting on page 188 of that document, if you could just look at that briefly in a couple of minutes.
So I'm going to instruct the jury on this. These are text messages, right? All right, so folks, before you consider any electronic communications in your deliberations, you must first find that it's more likely true than not that the person who authored or sent these messages is this witness and or John O'Keefe. If you do not find that it's more likely true than not that the messages were sent or authored by Mr. Camerata or Mr. O'Keefe, then you may not consider the electronic communication in deciding this case. Okay? Go ahead, Mr.
Okay.
Lally.
Okay.
Can I may approach this briefly again?
Yes.
Well, I'm sorry, before I do that, Mr. Camerano, do you recognize what's depicted on that page that I just showed you?
Yes.
What do you recognize it to be?
Text messages.
And those text messages that you had back and forth with Mr. O'Keefe on that date of January 28th?
Correct.
Your Honor, the call multi to introduce and admit the full essentially elected exhibit.
Is there any objection?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Oh, numbers matter today.
Thank you.
Numbers matter. Oh my God. I seen something about that,
Back to page 187.
and it looks ridiculous.
Do you see anything in there listing sort of participants in a text communication or conversation? On the bottom of the page.
Yes.
And as far as who are sort of listed as the participants in that conversation that comes to follow on the next page?
It does, Tony, yes.
Sorry, so just from page 187, from
My wife.
your wife and who, if anyone else?
John.
And your wife, John, and is your number there as well? Already have to keep.
Correct.
So essentially, that's a conversation between yourself, your wife, Catherine, and John O'Keefe, correct?
Correct.
Now, beyond sort of your memory of that, as far as the numbers that are associated with those names, do you recognize any of those numbers as being yours, your wife's, and John O'Keefe's?
No, there's just 3 numbers there.
Now, sir, if I could ask you to flip the page to the next one, 188. Your Honor, with the court's permission, may Ms. Gilman publish this to the jury as well?
Yes.
Ms. Gilman, if you could go to page 188. I'm sorry, Ms. Gilman, if you could just, thank you. Read my mind. So, sir, what's up on the screen right now? Is that what you have before you as page 188 of exhibits? I believe it's 48.
They don't redact phone numbers?
Yes.
What's up on the screen? Is that what you have before?
Correct.
Okay. And as far as from these conversations, there are blue bubbles and green bubbles. Is that correct?
Correct.
And if you can tell from the content or from anything else on the page for you, who is communicating in the blue bubble and who is communicating in the green?
Katie, my wife.
From within.
Oh, no, I'm communicating. Sorry. Excuse me.
So there's a from and a to. Is that
Yes.
correct?
Correct.
And so the sender would be in the from. Is that your understanding?
Yes.
So this first one on the top of page 188, this is from you, is that correct?
Correct.
What, if anything, did you say in this conversation?
Congrats. This is great news.
And what, if anything, are you referring to by that?
Kaylee getting her acceptance letter.
And Ms. Gilman, if you could just scroll down. And the next bubble, who is that from and what does it say?
It's from me. Yes, we did.
And if you could continue to scroll down, Ms. Gilman.
Why does this matter? Okay.
And again, from this bubble, who is this from and what does it say?
Not
It's
a
from
soul.
John. Same news, I hope.
Is that still in reference to the news regarding KEEFE?
Correct.
And Ms. Gilman, if you could scroll down. And again, sir, the next bubble, who is it from and what does it say?
It's from me. Yes.
Ms. Gilman, if you could. The next green bubble, what, if anything, does that say? And who is it from?
From John. Sweet. Congrats, Madeline.
And that's your daughter's name?
Correct.
And if you could continue to scroll down, Ms. Gilman.
What is this got to do with anything?
And again, the next bubble, who is it from and what is this?
It's from my wife. I'm so excited for these girls. Madeline doesn't know yet.
Ms. Gilman, if you could. Yeah. And again, the next bubble, who is it from and what does it say?
From JJ.
And
Well, I told Kaylee already, so I'm sure she's texted her by now. Poor kid is probably a nervous wreck.
Ms. Gilman, if you could. And the next bubble,
I know.
who is that from?
It's from my wife, Kate.
What does this matter?
If you could scroll down again. Ms.
Yay, kids. Whoop, whoop.
And the next bubble, sir.
From me. I am sure she is freaking out.
If you could scroll down
Oh
again.
my God. And Bev's just, okay.
And the next
Okay.
bubble, sir, who is it from and what does it say?
From
Never
John.
going.
No doubt.
And if you could scroll down again, Ms. Gilman.
I don't get it.
Now, sir, if I could, may I approach on just a
Yes.
Oh my God.
Do we need the lights on?
I don't.
Mr. Camerad, are you able to see without these lights on?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
So, sir, I'm going to direct your attention to the same exhibits on page 156.
I know. And she just goes with it. God forbid the defense ever did something along these lines. They'd get disbarred. Right, Jazz.
So just before we get to that,
Sit down.
on this particular day, January 28th, 2022, where was your wife that day?
Good girl.
She was at home.
And at some point, did she go to work on the 28th?
Correct.
And what is sort of her typical work schedule with reference to, at that time, what was her sort of typical work schedule with reference to weekends?
She worked weekend nights, her shift.
And as far as your typical schedule on Friday evenings, what, if anything, was it that you would typically do?
Friday, I would be with the kids. I would, get them ready for stuff for the weekend, take care of all the activity that we have.
And then in reference to that, as far as the weekends were concerned, or Friday evenings in particular, what, if any, sort of usual thing would you do with reference to Mr. O'Keefe?
I would usually go over the O'Keefe's house every Friday.
And with your children, is that correct?
Correct. With at least one of them, if not both of them.
So either your son's hanging out with Patrick or your daughter's hanging out with Kaylee, typically on a Friday, correct?
Correct.
Now, with reference to what you have before you as page 156 of this exhibit, Again, towards the bottom, is there an indication as to a conversation starting on the next page as far as who, if anyone, the participants are?
What are you asking?
May I approach, John?
Yes.
So what I want to direct your attention to is the bottom of page 156 here, as far as that box at the bottom. What, if anything, does that indicate as far as the participants in the conversation that continues or begins on next?
Myself and John?
And sir, if I could ask you to flip the page over to page 156. And Your Honor, with court's permission, I published this part of the conversation for the jury.
Yes. There's no objection, Mr. Jackson, right?
No objection.
Your Honor, for the record, we're going from page 156 to page 159. And so, Mr. Cameron, again, what's up on the screen, is that what you have before you as page 157?
Correct.
And you can look at either, whether it's the book in front of you.
Okay.
Or you can see the screen, either is fine. But with reference to what's up on the screen, that first bubble, as if you could indicate to the jury again who it's from and what it's.
It's from JJ. How did Kara do, by the way?
And who is Kara?
I don't know.
Fair enough. Now, with reference, Ms. Gilman, if you could scroll down. And the next bubble again. I'm sorry. May I,
Take the screen down, please, Ms. Gilman. Turn on the lights, please. Thank you.
May I have just a moment with counsel?
Jesus.
Sure.
She just oversteps all over the place. I mean, it is her courtroom,
may I approach this?
but she doesn't make the
Yes.
rules. The law's already defined. That's what I think too, Carrie.
Yeah.
And just for the record, Your Honor, I would ask at this point to strike whatever, I don't think there was a whole lot done on that page, but whatever that was, did not.
Yes,
seem to be
it was an I don't know answer, so.
thank you.
Yeah. So jurors disregard that last question and answer.
The end of any relationship is never fun.
My apologies. Directing your attention, Mr. Cameron, to what on 157 before you, is that what's up on the screen now?
I think you're right.
Yes.
And so my apologies for that. But with regard to this first bubble on page 157, who is it from and what is it?
From JJ. You guys around tonight?
I'm just coming if you could scroll down. And with respect to that next blue bubble, who is it from and what is it?
From me. Kate is working. I'm around. Madeline Michael is going to the Loose to play with a friend.
And what is the loose play?
The Loose is a elementary school.
Was there a play?
The play, there's a park down there. Activities for kids.
And Ms. Gilman, if you could scroll down to the next bubble. And again, who is it from and what does it say, sir?
From JJ. Okay. At the driveway with her now. I'll text on my way back.
And could that be at the doctor?
Could be.
And Ms. Gilman, if you could scroll down to the next bubble.
I agree, JJ. Cut
And
to the chase.
again, who is it from and what does it say?
Oh, Don. From me to JJ, everything okay?
And if you could, down to the next bubble, Ms. Gilman. And again, who is it from and what does it say?
From JJ. Yes, stupid shit.
And if you could scroll down to the next bubble, Ms. Gilman. And again, fair to say that one's blank. As far as no text, but may have been something.
Yeah. And go back to the microphone or.
For this time around, the next bubble has no text to it, is that correct?
Correct.
And now you can move out of the way. I just wanted that question.
The next bubble below that, green one, again, who is it from, what does it say, sir?
From Johnny. Just told Dr. Jin that they both got into fiend.
And if you could scroll down to the next bubble. And again, green bubble, who is it from and what does it say, sir?
From Johnny. Want to drop Madeline off and hit the hillside for a bit.
And what is a hillside, sir?
It's a pub.
And where is it located?
In Canton.
And Ms. Gilman, if you could scroll down again. The blue bubble on the screen, who is that from and what does it say?
From me to Johnny. I probably won't get to your house till 5:30.
Whoa, what a bunch of why are we listening to this?
Then that green bubble, who is it from and what does it say?
From Johnny. Okay.
Ms. Gilman, if you could scroll down again.
Oh my God.
And again, the blue bubble on the screen, who is it from and what does it say?
From me. I am leaving in 10. Johnny.
What the hell's going
Hold
on?
1 second, sir. Just the news.
It's raining out and we got street sweepers going by.
Okay, sir. And the next green bubble.
Could you answer again, please?
Yes. From JJ. Okay.
Thank you.
And Ms. Gilman, if you could scroll down one last time, and that's, thank you. Ms. Gilman, you can take that. Your Honor, may I approach just to retrieve?
Yes.
Why is she allowing all this? You know, she's always telling the defense, hurry up, hurry up, hurry up. And then when it's Lally, he can have as much verbal diarrhea
Mr.
as he
Cameron, with
wants.
regard to your statement in the text as far as leaving now, where were you leaving and where were you going to?
Leaving my house, going to John's house.
And who, if anyone, was going with you at that time?
My daughter.
And if you know approximately what time did you arrive at Mr. O'Keefe's house?
I don't.
Yeah, she did.
Now, through
Looking at the defense when she said it.
your friendship with Mr. O'Keefe, did you become familiar with a person named Karen Reed?
Yes.
And how did you become familiar with her, and who, if anyone, was she to Mr. O'Keefe as far as?
John introduced me to her. She was John's girlfriend.
And just to be clear, do you see Miss Reed in the courtroom today?
Yes.
Could you just identify
All of
her
that
first?
to get
She's wearing
here?
article of clothing that she's wearing.
It doesn't even make sense.
She's sitting right there.
No, just as a record of reflect identification and identify the witness.
Yes.
Now, with regard to Miss Reed, prior to that date of January 28th,
Good
2022,
God.
how long had you known Miss Reed?
A year?
Do you recall approximately when you met her?
No.
And as far as you were aware,
What a waste of time that
where
was.
Mr. O'Keefe lived, did Miss Reed live there as
Yes.
well?
No.
Shh.
Yes.
Yes, not
Okay.
full time.
So she had a house of her own as far as you knew?
Correct.
I think you're right, Tony, but
About how
still.
often on a given week would you see Mr. O'Keefe?
Couple times.
And about how often would you see Miss Reed?
I would see her also.
Now, as far as your relationship with Mr. O'Keefe and or Miss Reed, would there be occasions where you would see Mr. O'Keefe without Miss Reed?
Correct. Yes.
Would there be any occasion where you would see Miss Reed without Mr. O'Keefe?
Yes.
And where would that be?
At the house. Maybe at Fields.
Now, with reference to their relationship? What, if any, conversation did you have with Mr. O'Keefe in regard to his relationship with Ms. Reed?
Objection.
Sustain, we need a time frame.
In the time period around, say, the weeks leading up to January 28, 2022, what, if any, conversations do you recall having with Mr. O'Keefe in regard to his relationship with Ms. Reed?
Just regular guy conversations.
Anything specific that you can recall?
No.
When you arrived at the house, or typically when you would come over to Mr. O'Keefe's house, where is it that you would park?
In the driveway to the right.
And is that what you did on this particular day?
Yes.
When you arrived at the house, where did you go?
You're okay.
Into the house.
Yourself and your daughter?
Yes.
And when you got in there, who, if anyone, was at the house at that time?
Kaylee and John.
And what is it that you did, or what is it that occurred while you were in the house?
Excuse me?
What happened in the house?
We were just congratulating the girls, talking about how good it's going to be, different school, and just really excited for the girls.
And at some point, did yourself and Mr. O'Keefe make plans to leave the house?
Yes.
And where did you go?
We went down to McCarthy's.
And is that CF McCarthy's?
Correct.
Is that an establishment? Where is that?
It's in Canton Center.
And about how far away from Mr. O'Keefe's house is that?
5-10 minutes.
And is that somewhere that you're familiar with? You've been before?
Not frequently, no.
Now, with regard to, you know approximately what time you left Mr. O'Keefe's house and went to CF McCarthy's?
I don't.
And where were the girls when the two of you went to CF McCarthy's?
They were in the house.
And at the time that you left there and went to CF McCarthy's, who, if anyone else,
Sit down.
was there any plans as far as meeting anybody else there?
We're supposed to meet Karen.
Now, prior to leaving the house, what, if anything, did you or Mr. O'Keefe do with reference to the vehicles that were in the driveway?
So when we were leaving the house, I was parked in the driveway. John was parked on the left side of the driveway. John asked me I backed up so John could move his car out of the way so Karen could pull her car into the garage because of the snowstorm.
The snowstorm.
I'm sorry, you said because of the what now?
Snowstorm?
And as far as snowstorm was concerned, what, if anything, did you know at that point in regard to that?
We were supposed to get a lot of snow.
But did you? No.
I may have just one moment, Ron.
Yes.
Oh, please tell me that's not where it ends. That better not have been. There better be more to this
Now, with
witness
court
than what.
permission, I would ask that this gentleman be allowed to publish a part of Exhibit 6, which is the driveway of the rain video.
Okay.
And this gentleman, if I could ask for video number 145. I'm sorry, if you could pause it right there. Mr. Cameron, do you recognize what's up on?
Yes,
And what do you recognize that to be?
myself and my daughter.
And as far as, may I approach the witness again, Your Honor?
Yes.
So just before you hear, this is a laser pointer. You just press that button.
Okay. Okay.
And Ms. Cameron, using that laser pointer that you now have with you, if you could direct the jury's attention to where in this video you observe yourself and your daughter. And there are two vehicles in this sort of frame, is that correct?
Yes.
And if you could, using the laser pointer, just describe to the jury whose car is who and where it is.
The white car is mine. The SUV is John's.
Now, as far as the ring system that Mr. O'Keefe had at his house at this time, as far as your knowledge of it, what, if anything, would the two of you do with reference to sort of picking up or dropping off kids in the ring video?
Yes, he had a camera, so like I'd always wave or give him, you know. I always knew that he was like watching.
And do you know how he was watching if he wasn't home?
Yes, on his phone.
So would that be sort of a running joke between the two of you?
Yes.
Okay. Ms. Gilman, if you could, please. Ms. Gilman, if you could just pause it there briefly. Now, Mr. Camerata, are you familiar with Mr. O'Keefe's house? You've been there plenty of times, correct?
Yes.
And with reference to sort of where you and your daughter sort of exited from the street, what, if any, sort of entrances to the home are located in that area?
2 garage doors.
And are you familiar with that garage area?
Yes.
Is that typically how you would enter the house?
Yes.
And with regard to sort of the condition of the garage, was Mr. O'Keefe particular about that?
Yes. He was.
And how so?
He always kept things very tight. He was like OCD.
And so as far as how many garage doors, as far as, and what I mean by garage doors is sort of electronic up, up
So
and
there's
down.
2 garage doors that go up and down, and there's a door. Just a single entry door.
On the left, as far as the left.
There was an old classic car he had, convertible.
And then as far as the right door,
It was empty.
and once beyond those sort of bay doors that go up and down, what, if any, other entranceway into the garage was?
There's a side door.
And if you recall, when you were entering at that time on 28th with your daughter, how did you enter it?
We went to the garage door, electric door.
And was that something, what, if anything, was affixed to those garage doors as far as security was concerned? Beyond that?
A keypad. We'd have to punch in a key.
And at the time or at any time, were you familiar with what that passcode was?
Yes.
Now, when you walk into the garage, how is it that you get from the garage to the house?
You walk into the garage and you walk up 3 steps and you go into a door.
And then once you sort of walk up the 3 steps and go into the door, what part of the house are you in when you enter?
You're pretty much in the kitchen.
And you mentioned that Mr. O'Keefe was meticulous, if not OCD, when it came to the garage. How did that relate to how he kept the house?
The same. Everything was very tidy. When you walked in the door into the house, to the left, you put your shoes, your coats would be hung there.
And as far as shoes were concerned, is that something that you wore inside the house?
He'd rather you not.
And that was pretty well known to people that had been there before, correct?
Yes.
Now, Ms. Gilman, from the same exhibit, if I could, actually, I'm sorry. Your Honor, with regard to the next video that's not contained on this Exhibit 5 from the same video, I would offer that at this time as the next exhibit.
And there was no objection, Mr. Jackson?
No objection.
Okay. Open the door, do everything, Lolly. Open that door. Thank you.
And Your Honor, for the record, this would relate to Exhibit 6 and it's video number 148.
All right, lollipop.
And with the court's permission, may I publish that to the jury at this time, Your Honor?
Yes.
You're okay, Lizzie. There we go. Morning, Dandy. Morning, Dandy. I'll try that again.
What was just up on the video, sir, it's just up on the screen as video number 148. That was what you had testified to previously as far as moving the cars.
Correct.
And why was that again?
So Karen could pull in the driveway, in the garage, excuse me.
So the expectation, from your understanding, is that Ms. Reed was coming back to the house at Meadows later on that evening.
Correct.
Now, as Mr. O'Keefe from that video on the screen there was walking to the car, did you happen to notice how he was dressed?
Yes.
And as far as what you observed in that video, what you recall from that evening, is that how he was dressed that evening?
Yes.
And when I say how he was dressed, for sort of the entirety of the time that you were with him?
Yes.
So it's January 28th. You recall, you indicated there was a snowstorm coming. It was cold out, is that correct?
Correct.
And with reference to that, was Mr. O'Keefe someone that would typically wear a coat?
No.
And ever? But you can recall.
Never that I could recall.
And Your Honor, with the court's permission, with reference to that same Exhibit 6, if I could publish video number 149.
Okay.
The way I understand it, she met them at the bar. Where did his hat end up? Where did that shoe end up? Off they go.
Let's go in for the sake of time. Yes, you can break it down.
What was that all about?
So from that video, Mr. Camerano, what is it that you and Mr. O'Keefe are doing in that video?
Heading down to McCarthy's.
Now,
Do you want the lights on, Mr. Lally?
yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, and they never found that hat as far as I know.
Now, at some point after you arrive at C.F. McCarthy's, who, if anyone else, sort of joins your group?
Kurt.
And that'd be Kurt Roberts, is that
Correct.
And how was it that he came to C.F. McCarthy's that night?
I texted him.
And in general terms, what do you call sort of what that text communication was like between yourself and Mr. Roberts?
Yes, he said he was busy. He was doing something that I texted him that he was a pussy.
And following that text, did Mr. Roberts eventually arrive at C.F. McCarthy's?
He showed up, yes.
And about how long after you and Mr. O'Keefe arrived did Kurt show up?
I would like to say maybe an hour.
And if you know, when was it that at some point you indicated Ms. Reed appeared at C.F. McCarthy's as well?
Correct.
And do you know about how long after yourself and John arrived at Miss Reed?
I don't.
Now, with reference to that establishment of C.F. McCarthy's, are you aware, or have you become aware that there was surveillance video from inside the bar that night?
Yes.
You've seen some of that footage, is that correct?
Yes.
Your Honor, may I approach?
Yes.
Yes.
I want to seek to introduce in the next,
Lollipops,
surveillance video of
lollipops.
C.F. McCarthy's as the next exhibit.
And there's no objection, Mr. Jackson.
It's done.
Come here, bring that to Mom. Come on, Jazz. Good girl. Good girl, Jazzy. Come on.
Thank you.
Here. Come on, Jazz. Where is it?
Thank you very much.
Tori.
With the court's permission, I would seek to publish portions of that video for the jury at this time.
Okay.
And Ms. Gilman, if you could, from that video, the first video. If I could ask you to play from about 7 minutes and 40 seconds, and we'll go through about 9 minutes.
I do not understand the relevance
Now,
to any
you
of
recognize
this.
what's up on the screen, Mr. Cameron?
Yes.
And what do you recognize that to be?
C.F. McCarthy's.
And yourself and Mr. O'Keefe are not in frame at this time, is that correct?
No.
If you could, using the laser pointer before you, if you could direct the jury's attention to where it was about in reference to the bar that you and Mr. O'Keefe eventually came to congregate that.
These seats here?
And from this video, from your time there that night or prior occasions, can you see sort of where the front door is to the establishment?
Yes.
Could you direct the jury's attention to where that is? And so what I'm going to ask in just a moment is for Ms. Gilman to press play, and then what I'd ask you to do is if you could just direct the jury's attention to when, if at all, you observe yourself and Mr. O'Keefe watching.
Okay.
Ms. Gilman, if you could.
I don't know why they feel like they need 100 TVs. Sports bar, no sports bar. What?
And Ms. Gilman, if you could pause it right there. And just, I'm sorry, Mr. Cameron, you're directing with the laser pointer to the
Sorry.
screen. If you could just describe what you're directing. Please.
That is me. And that is John.
And thanks.
Well-
Ms. Gilman, if you could just, again, play this through the 9 minutes.
Where's your hat, John? I wish I could understand the relevance of all this, starting with those text messages all the way through. I mean, it doesn't have to be drug out this long to make everyone understand that they knew each other. Like, come on. We figured that out the first 5 minutes. All we've learned at this point is that John O'Keefe was going out of his way to be courteous, make sure that Karen had a way to get into that garage. Other than that, I've learned nothing. Yeah, I don't know, Dandy. If he had that big coat on, no way could he have been injured
And you know, for the
outside.
record, I think we're at about
If he
9
had that
minutes and
on.
41 seconds or so.
Okay.
So with reference to Dave McCarthy's, you went there, had some drinks, correct?
Yes.
Do you recall what you were drinking or what John was drinking that night?
Beer.
Is that sort of typical for the two of you?
Yes.
Do you recall sort of, was that from the tap, a bottle, or something?
From the bottle.
And do you recall what type of beer typically you would drink or Mr. O'Keefe would drink?
Bud Light.
And do you recall specifically that's what you had that night, or that's just what you typically had?
Typically, I think we had Bud Light.
And if you know approximately how many beers or how many drinks did you have over the course of your time at CF McCarthy's?
I don't.
As far as yourself versus Mr. O'Keefe,
It is painful. I don't
you
understand what
recall
Lolly's
sort of in
getting
relation to
to.
each other, how much you each had to drink?
Not maybe 6 beers.
And what I'm asking, sir, is it's not like, did one of you have 10 and one of you had 2, or was it sort of commensurate with each other?
Commensurate, one for one. I would,
So essentially, you're buying rounds as you go along.
correct.
Now, from the time at CF McCarthy's, how would you describe sort of the tone or sort of the demeanor within the group that you were in that night?
Pretty good.
So no arguments, no fighting, anything like that? You recall?
No.
And just briefly going back to the clothing that you observed Mr. O'Keefe wearing in this and that you recall him wearing that night, what, if any, damage or tears or anything like that did you note in any of his clothing that night?
I did not see any.
Now, Ms. Gilman, if I could ask you to take this down and go to the third video. And Ms. Gilman, if I could direct your attention to the 6-minute and 10-second mark through the 7-minute mark. And when you get to 6:10, if you could just pause. Now, Ms. Cameron, I'm directing your attention to the screen, if you could, from the parties that were, within your group sort of that night at the bar. If you could just direct the jury's attention to who was who, or who, if anyone, you recognize.
Kurt.
So in addition to yourself and Mr. O'Keefe, Mr. Roberts has now joined your group.
Correct.
And Ms. Gilman, if you could just play it for me. If you could pause that, please. Now, with reference to Mr. Roberts, was he a beer drinker as well?
Yes.
From a bottle that night, same sort of thing that yourself and Mr. O'Keefe were having?
Correct.
And from where it's paused at this point in the video, who, if anyone else, do you recognize sort of coming into the frame or coming to join your?
Karen Reed.
And so from this, is this about the time that she entered the establishment or came into the bar?
Yes.
No, it just
Now-
looks that way, Lolly.
With reference to Ms. Reed, what, if anything, do you recall her drinking during your time that you were both at CF McCarthy's that night?
She was drinking out of a glass.
And if you know, what if anything did you observe as far as the color of what was in the glass?
It was clear.
And beyond sort of the clear liquid in the glass, what, if anything else, did you observe in the glass as far as the straw, fruit, anything like that?
A straw, maybe.
And what, if anything, did you know what was in the glass?
I didn't.
And as far as you could tell what was in the glass?
Vodka?
Is that something that Ms. Reed would typically drink if you had been out with her on prior occasions?
Yes.
No.
Now, I'm sorry to keep jumping back and forth between, but
Of course you do,
if
Lolly.
you could just hit play again and let it run, excuse me, to the 7 minutes.
Stop, Lizzie.
Thank you. Now, Ms. Gilman, from this same third video in this exhibit of the C.F. McCarthy's, if I could ask you to forward to the 14-minute mark, pause there. And if you could, I would ask that you play this from the 14-minute mark until about 14 minutes and 15 seconds, just about 15 seconds. And Ms. Gilman, you can take that down now. So Ms. Camerano indicated that your son was at Bruce Elementary School for a play of some sort, is that correct?
He was for a little bit.
And from there, where, if anywhere else, did he go that evening?
He went to a friend's house to skate in his backyard.
Skate as far as just skating, or what, if anything else was?
He was skating, that little party.
Well, let me ask you this. Was he a hockey player?
Yes, he's a hockey player.
Okay, so when you say skating, he's in the
Skating,
backyard.
yes. Makeshift hockey rink in somebody's backyard.
And at some point with relation to that, what, if anything, sort of caused you to leave C.F. McCarthy's on that night?
I received a phone call that my son was hit in the face with a hockey stick and he lost his tooth.
And so upon receiving that call, where did you go?
I went to go get him.
And do you recall about what time that was that you left C.F. McCarthy's to go get him?
I don't recall.
Now, from the group that you were with, as far as yourself, Mr. O'Keefe, Ms. Reed, and Mr. Roberts, who, if anyone, left first?
I believe Kurt.
And do you recall sort of how it was that Kurt left?
Kurt just got up and left.
So sort of an Irish goodbye?
Yeah, Irish goodbye, yes.
That's something he's known for?
Yes.
And about when was that in relation to when you left?
Not too soon after.
I'm sorry, not too soon after or not too soon before?
I left after, probably, I'd like to say 15 minutes after Kurt left.
Now, with the court's permission, Your Honor, I'd just like to publish just 2 more segments from this.
Okay.
So Ms. Gilman, if I could direct your attention to the 4th video. 4th one down.
We have learned nothing.
And if
We've
I could
learned
ask you
nothing.
To forward it to about 19 minutes and 40 seconds.
What a waste of time, Lolly. And Bev's just going with it.
Good play.
No, I've never heard of that before either. Stop it, Lizzie. No. You're gonna rip my leather chair to shreds.
Yeah, Ms. Gilman, if I could ask you to just pause it there for 1 second. Now, Ms. Camerano, from
Unreal.
looking at this surveillance video here, or from
Minute by minute,
memory of that
Lally.
night, you see Mr. O'Keefe.
Tick, tick,
The
tick.
gentleman, is that correct?
Yes.
You know who that person is?
Yes.
And who is that person?
Sully.
And do you know his first name or anything beyond this, Sully?
Sully, I don't know his first name.
And how is it that you know him?
Kids play baseball with his son.
So in addition to your son playing baseball with Mr. O'Keefe's nephew, Mr. Roberts, does he have a son that's around the same age?
Correct.
And this individual, Sully, he has a child that plays baseball with the 3 of your kids?
Correct.
Is that someone that you had contacted to meet there, or he just happened to be there?
He just happened to be there.
Ms. Gilman, if you could just play way again and just run to about the 20-minute mark or so. Now, Ms. Gilman, if you could move that forward again to 24 minutes and 10 seconds.
I have no
And,
idea what
if
this
you
is
could,
all about.
Just let this run until about 24 minutes and 20 seconds to just about 10 seconds.
Oh my God, man. Why is the judge even allowing this? I don't understand.
And
We've
so, Mr.
learned
Cameron, you
nothing.
can see yourself in that portion of the video,
Yes,
and you know what you were doing at that time?
leaving.
And so prior to leaving, had you sort of settled up a tab or something?
Yes, I picked up the tab.
And then you left and went to get your son, correct?
Correct.
Ms. Gilman, you can take that down, please.
Jesus criminy. At least the judge isn't showing favorites.
Mr. Camarano, you left there and went to pick up your son, is that correct?
Yes,
And following picking up your son, where did you go?
back to John's house.
And why did you go back to John's house at that time?
My daughter was there picking her up.
You went to pick up your daughter?
Correct.
And you recall approximately what time that was?
11.
And when you came back to the residence at One Meadows, did you park in the driveway again?
Correct.
And did you physically sort of go in the house to pick up your...
No, I did. No, I did not.
Now, as far as from the time that from the time that you left with Mr. O'Keefe to go to see McCarthy's versus the time that you came back, anything changed as far as position of Mr. O'Keefe's car?
No.
What, if anything, did you note as far as the garage doors were concerned, or any damage or anything like that?
Everything looked normal.
And Your Honor, with the court's permission, I would seek to just publish another video or two from Exhibit 6.
Okay.
And at this time, Ms. Gilman, if I could have from the driveway again, video 152. Ms. Gilman, you can stop.
What the hell? Bev, get your shit together in your courtroom.
Now, from that video 152 that was just up on screen, sir, can you describe for the jury, excuse me, just as sort of what was going on in that video?
I was picking up my daughter, Madeline. And my son, Michael, was with me. Yes, all three of us.
What the hell? This
And where did
is
you go from there?
brutal.
And when you got home, well, let me ask you this first. During the time that you were at C.F. McCarthy's, you obviously, at some point, you didn't do an Irish goodbye?
No.
So at some point, you indicated to Mr. O'Keefe and or Ms. Reed that you were leaving to go pick up your son?
Yes.
And what, if any, indication did they give to you as far as where they were going, or what were their intentions for the rest of the evening?
They were heading either across the street or to the hillside.
And when you say across the street, what, if anything, was across the street?
There's another bar room.
That's the waterfall?
Waterfall, yes.
You familiar with that establishment as well?
Yes.
Where is that in relation to CF McCarthy?
Across the street to the left, if you were coming out of CF McCarthy's.
Walking distance, is that correct?
Correct.
And
I bet the defense is laughing
You
their
leave, you get the
asses
son, you
off.
pick up the daughter at Mr. O'Keefe's house, and then you go home, correct?
Correct.
And when you get home, about how much longer were you up before you went to bed?
Wasn't up much longer.
And when you typically go to bed, what, if anything, do you do with your phone?
Put them on the charger.
Where's the charger located in reference?
In the kitchen.
That matters. Why, Lolly?
And
Do tell.
when following to the next day.
Show us a picture of him
about what
charging
time
his
is it
phone,
that you wake
please.
up on the
I want to
29th?
see it.
5:36
can't.
a.m.
And what was it that woke you up, if you know?
Phones ringing.
And how many phones do you have?
2.
And essentially one personal, one work, is that correct?
Correct.
Were both phones ringing or one of the other?
1 phone at that time.
Was that your work or your personal?
My personal phone.
And get up, you hear that, you look at your phone, what, if anything, do you see on the screen?
A
I see
random
a lot of
friend,
missed
Dandy.
calls, a bunch of missed calls from Karen and missed calls from my wife's work.
And when you say missed calls, we're talking about one call, several calls,
Several calls.
any voicemails that you recall associated with those phones?
I don't recall.
I don't recall.
And so based on sort of making that observation of the missed calls, what do you do with that?
I pick up the phone and call my wife.
And what, if anything, did you learn from your wife about this?
My wife said to me that John.
Okay, sustained.
John, may we approach?
Okay.
All of this to get here. All of this, how long have we been listening to this crap? An hour and a half? Why? We have seen text messages. We've talked about the kids. We've showed them moving vehicles around. And for what? For what? What a waste of time. And Bev is just like, oh, that's okay, Lally love. Lover boy, whatever you want. Whatever you want. Meanwhile, just wait until the defense gets up and watch how things change. Hurry this along. I'm not talking just about the defense. Move this along as she is staring at the defense table. Just a
Mrs.
waste of
Camerata,
the court's
you
time.
call your wife and what, if anything, is
And the jury.
in general that you tell?
She tells me that John didn't come home last night.
And she's still at work at this point, is that correct?
Correct.
Did she indicate to you how she came to find that?
She said she's received phone calls from
From whom?
Karen.
From Karen. And then based on that, you have a conversation with your wife about John's niece and nephew, is that right?
Yes, my wife says to me, go get Kaylee. Kaylee is home.
So at that time, your wife tells you that Kaylee is home in Meadows Ave by herself.
Yes.
And so based on that information, what is it that you do?
I realize that Kaylee's home alone, so I throw some clothes on, go out to the car, clean the car off real quick, and get in the car and go.
When you say clean the car off real quick, what, if anything, did you have to clean off?
I cleaned the snow off the front windshield.
And
How
then
much
you
snow?
drive over to John's house to get Kaylee.
Correct.
And when you get there, you pull in the driveway as well.
Yes.
And when you get to John's house and you pull in the driveway, what, if anything, did you observe about sort of the condition of the garage doors at that point?
When I pulled in, I could tell the garage door was open, left open.
Which one? The one to the right or the one?
To the one to the right.
And you go inside that door?
I do.
What, if anything, did you do once you went inside?
Once I went inside, I saw Kaylee. I asked Kaylee get whatever she needed and to come and get in the car. While she was doing that, I started clearing some snow. I thought maybe snow hit the senses so that the door couldn't go down.
And so you start clearing the snow with a shovel?
With the shovel that was in the garage, yes.
And after you had cleared some of the snow with the shovel, what did you do with regard to the doors at that point?
So I tried to put them down. They wouldn't go down. Then I asked Kaylee, I think, to re-enter the code to see if she could get the doors to go down, but the doors would not go down. The door.
And at some point, how did you get the?
So there's a red rope. I manually pulled that, shut the door, locked the doors. There's 2 side locks on the garage door, and I went out through the side garage door.
Now, when you arrived at the residence and pulled into the driveway, do you recall how many vehicles were in the driveway when you got there?
Yes.
And how many?
2.
And whose vehicles were they?
John's and Karen's.
And John's vehicle, where was that in relation to the last time that you saw it when you picked up your daughter?
Same spot.
And as far as the defendant, Ms. Reed's vehicle, where was that in relation to the garage or in relation to the driveway?
It was pulled in on the left side, all the way in.
So in the area of the garage door that you were just speaking?
Correct. Mm-hmm.
And at that time, did you look at the vehicle or touch the vehicle in any way?
No.
Fair to say that your focus was sort of on the garage door and the fact that it was open, correct?
Correct.
And why was that? Maybe self-evident, but why was your focus on?
Because I figured John would go crazy when he came home and all the snow was in his garage.
Now, at any point in time when you initially got the call from your wife, did you yourself reach out to John at any point?
I did not.
If I may, I would just seek to publish just a few more videos from Exhibit 6, the driveway ring.
Okay.
And
This
Ms. Gilman,
judge
if I could
is
have,
ridiculous.
photos, first starting with video 155, and essentially it's going to go 155 through 158. If you could pause it. And Mr. Camerata, you recognize what's up on the screen again?
Yes, my car.
Is this sort of when you're pulling in to get Kelly?
Correct.
Using the laser pointer before you, again, if you could just direct the jury's attention to where you observed Ms. Reed's vehicle. And is that essentially from what you observed there, that's where it was the entirety of the time that you were there?
Yes.
So nobody else came to the home during the time that you were there to pick up Kaylee and shoveling out the snow from the garage?
No.
Ms. Gilman, if you could just run.
So where is John's son? They just left him somewhere on the side of the road? Good question.
Gilman, if you could play the next video, 156.
Yeah, I don't know why we're not seeing this. That's probably right. What a witch. Wouldn't that be something if FBI just stepped in and said, stop? Auntie Bev, you run a shit show. Is that not Karen's vehicle?
Let's go to the next video, 157.
What, now you have to show everyone leaving? Yep. And I love how the defense just sits there and lets the shit show happen. Oh, I don't even understand the purpose of this witness. I really, really don't.
Last thing, Ms. Gilman, video 158.
That was quite the storm. I mean, when we get blizzards, it literally decorates my backyard in a whole new fashion. There's stuff everywhere. There's stuff in the backyard from the neighbors, actually. I mean, come on. We call this light snow. That's a good question, Dingo. I have no idea how this old bitch is going to deal with the coroner. No.
Ms. Gilman, you can take that. And so, Mr. Camarado, what was just in those last 4 videos that were played before the jury? Is that essentially the process that you were describing as far as yourself and Kaylee trying to get the garage door down?
Correct.
And so you leave from there and go back to your house, is that correct?
Yes.
And
Wow,
where does sort of you and Kaylee go once you get inside?
We go into the house. We're in the kitchen in my house, and my daughter. Get my daughter up.
And your daughter then sort of hangs out with Kaylee for a period of time?
Correct. They go downstairs and they were hanging out.
And at some point in time, how does Kaylee leave your house, or where does she go from there?
I take Kaylee home.
And why is it that you take Kaylee home? About what time is it, if you know?
I don't know what time. Paul had called me.
And by Paul, who do you mean by?
Paul O'Keefe, John's brother.
You know, that guy that's sitting within arm's length
He informed
of
you the
Karen?
time passed.
Yes.
That guy.
So you took Kaylee to the house on Meadows Ave to be with the family, is that correct?
Yes.
I'm with you, Tony.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
What?
Mr. Jackson?
Thank you.
Oh my God. We learned nothing. Hour and 50.
Mr. Camarado, just a few questions.
Wow.
You and your wife did spend a lot of time with John O'Keefe and Karen Reed as a couple, correct?
Whoa.
Decent amount, yes.
Would you consider John one of your best friends?
A good friend.
In fact, you were close enough that your children spent a lot of time with John O'Keefe
Yep.
and Karen Reed as a couple and their kids, correct?
Correct.
In fact, is it true that sometimes they would even vacation together with Mr. O'Keefe and Ms. Reed?
Correct.
There was a trusting relationship that you had with both Mr. O'Keefe and Ms. Reed to put your kids in their care.
Correct.
You mentioned this wonderful news about your kids. Your
What the
daughter
hell is
getting
this?
into this great school. I think it's called Bishop.
Bishop Fan, yes.
Before the acceptance, there was actually a sort of a process, like an open house that you needed to take the kids to, correct?
Yes.
You took your daughter, right?
What's going on?
John's niece.
Yes.
Your daughter spent a lot of time just with Karen, Miss Reed,
Correct.
running errands, going to Miss Reed's house, having Miss Reed care for her.
Correct.
And
I don't
you
know
had
what's
no
going
issues
on with that channel.
No.
because you liked Karen. You liked
Correct.
Miss Reed.
Correct.
It was probably, did you say once a week that you would hang out with and socialize with Miss Reed and Mr. O'Keefe?
Yes.
So you got to know them not just individually, but as a couple together, correct?
Yes.
You saw them on most Friday nights, right?
Correct.
You never saw them argue or fight.
Argue.
Matter of fact, one time you were asked about this in front of a grand jury, and you said, I wouldn't even call it bickering. It would just banter together.
I guess so, yes.
You never heard Mr. O'Keefe complain about Miss Reed or vice versa?
No, I did hear him complain about like when when Karen would buy like very nice things for the kids, like he wouldn't like that, stuff like that, or Bishop Fan, yes.
Before the acceptance, there was actually a sort of process, like an open house that you needed to take the kids to, correct?
Yes.
You took your daughter, right?
I don't recall.
Do you remember being at an open house and a tour of Bishop with Karen Reed and John O'Keefe and John's niece?
I do recall being in an auditorium, I do.
Yeah, big auditorium, big tour of the school.
Yes.
So all the kids getting in.
Yes.
Okay. To make sure it's the right fit.
Correct.
And Karen was there, sort of as a
She was.
patriarch.
Yes.
That's spoiling that little girl.
Yes.
You would agree there are worse things in the world than spoiling a child.
Correct.
I'll let it stand.
You never heard Mr. O'Keefe even hint at the idea of breaking up with Miss Reed.
Not that I can recall.
We explained why we were there.
Is it all good now, guys?
I want to turn your attention to January 28th, if I could.
The young 16-year-old girl.
Because I have mine on in another
We saw
room,
a
Tony. I'll
video
turn the
that
volume
explained
off.
What was happening in the video, where some cars were being jostled around. That was Mr. O'Keefe actually moving his car to facilitate Miss Reed bringing her car over to his house to put it in the garage, correct?
Yes.
Kind of a chivalrous thing to do for your loved one.
Yes.
Didn't want her to be out in the snow if it was going to be a heavy snow, is that right?
Correct.
And the idea was that even that weekend, he intended that Miss Reed would likely be with him and the family for the entirety of the weekend during that period.
Correct.
So she'd have a nice warm place and a dry place.
Of course it was.
Yes.
You saw
I've got
a video
backup
that
now.
Mr. Lally played for you of the moment. There's several videos, but I want to direct your attention, your memory, to the video of when Miss Reed actually made her way into McCarthy's.
Yes.
You have that scene in your mind?
Yes.
You saw in the video when Miss Reed actually walked into the location how Miss Reed and Mr. O'Keefe greeted each other,
Objection.
I'll allow it.
correct?
Why,
Yes.
Lolly?
Um,
You showed the
It
shit,
appeared that
dumbass.
that was quite an affectionate greeting. Did you agree?
Objection.
Do you agree with that?
They kissed. Yeah.
Would you consider a kiss affectionate?
Yes.
They hug each other, correct?
I don't recall.
Mr. O'Keefe put his right arm out and
Oh,
Miss Reed
don't recall.
sort of nestled into his embrace,
Okay.
and that's when he kissed her.
Yes.
Okay. They seemed happy to see each other. is what I
Yes.
Um, Didn't observe while you were at CF McCarthy's with them, you didn't observe any arguing or bickering between the two of them?
No.
As a matter of fact, they were sort of the normal, affectionate, laughing, happy couple that you were used to seeing, correct?
Yes.
There didn't seem to be any tension between them at CF McCarthy's, is that right?
Not that I recall.
All right. I want to just ask a couple of more questions. During the span of time that you knew them to be together, would you describe their relationship as being normal and caring?
Objection.
I'll sustain that.
I want to just draw your attention to the month before Mr. O'Keefe's passing. Would you describe their relationship to be normal as far as you knew it to be?
Yes.
And on the day before Mr. O'Keefe's passing, would you describe their interactions to be normal and caring and affectionate?
Yes.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay. Anything, Mr. Lally?
No redirect, John.
All right, Mr. Camerano, thank you very much. You're all set,
What
sir.
the hell was that?
All right, jurors, why don't we take our morning recess? We'll take 15, 20 minutes.
Jurors, if you'd fold and close your notebooks, placing them on
What
their
the
chairs, taking your roll.
hell?
All rise, jury out.
Whoa, that was the most ridiculous morning. I hope Lolly
Hey there,
catches
Karen Reed, trial
shit.
watchers. You know what a lot of the trials we cover remind me? It's that you gotta be careful who.
Oh my God, this man. So what the hell? I mean, why did she allow that? That's my question. Because we do know if that was the defense, there is no way she would have gone for that. She would have been all over that like flies on shit. Oh, lordy, lordy, dingo. I mean, we are at 2 hours in. The defense took 2 minutes just to basically come up with, so that seemed affectionate. And yeah, it did. There didn't seem
Information
to
like
be
phone
any
numbers.
problems that were apparent. We watched kids get taken there. We watched kids getting picked up. We watched everybody get along in the bar. I mean, 2 hours of that just to find out that he was a friend of John's and was out with him that night at the beginning of the night. That's all we learned. And that they were getting along, which was obvious in that video, right? Can you imagine if the defense had spent 2 hours talking to someone? Oh, lordy, lordy. It's a timer, JJ, but it keeps track of, what am I forgetting? Yeah, nothing came of his testimony. Are you seriously? Here comes the street sweeper again. And Bev just allows this all. Mexi, you missed nothing. We watched for 2 hours. A friend of John O'Keefe's that knew nothing. Knew nothing about the incident. I mean, it was a complete shit show. I can't get over the fact how this woman is dealing with her courtroom with all of us watching her. And I hope she's looking at this stuff after the fact to see what we think of her and the way she runs her courtroom, because it is like, it blows me away. It blows me away. And I mean, we have seen a lot together in the last few years, and I have never seen this before. That was it. That was it. Did you know John O'Keefe? Yes. Were you out with John O'Keefe that night? Yes. How did that go? Good. Okay. Thank you. Bye. You know, it's, oh my God, guys. This is harsh. It's almost painful to watch. It should have only taken 10 minutes. And did that guy even need to be on the stand in all reality? What, did they need so badly to point out that John O'Keefe had friends? Like what? I don't get it. I don't even know why they called him. We learned nothing. He knows nothing about that night. Yeah, we did. We heard more about the kids than the case. Really good. They're involved in sports, and sorry your kid lost a tooth. And why did you pick up your kids after sucking back beer? I mean, if we got stopped after something like that, I mean, one beer and I think a person's over, right? Isn't it 0.08 or something like that, the exact amount that's in a regular beer? And he sits back and then he goes and grabs kids and drives around. And yet Karen Reed did the same thing, and didn't they charge her for that? And it wasn't even at the time. Yes. The defense should have asked these cops, do you always drive after a heavy night of drinking? Yeah. Oh, yes, that's something else. We did learn that Irish Americans don't say goodnight after a night out. They just walk out and they call it Irish drinking. Okay. Well, I mean, oh, that just sounds like a hangover in a can. Yucky, yucky. I'm not a beer drinker. That shite's gross. I mean, I know I've got plenty of friends that suck back beer. They love their beer. And me as, ugh. It tastes bad as soon as it hits my mouth. And some beer, I don't know what it's made with, literally make me sick within a few sips even. I don't know what it's made from. Bud Light was actually something I could drink. It was like water, but it still tastes like beer, which is really gross. Now, if they could come up with beer that tastes like rum and Coke. Yeah, that was me, Tony. When I drank, it was like the hard stuff. I wasn't one of those girls that didn't mix. I drank everything in front of me. Yeah. Yeah, it's probably why it didn't make me as sick as some other ones. I mean, afterwards, I think, whoa, beer's just not my thing. It's just not my thing. I can't handle the smell of it on someone's breath. I just think it's all gross. And I mean, I get hangovers smelling alcohol nowadays. So, yeah, it's a spectator sport for me now. But yeah, you know, I met a cop a few years ago. Hubby and I were out, and oh, it's quite a few years ago now, I guess. But hubby and I were out, and I was drinking. And there is this guy sitting next to me. I was playing the VLTs, the video lottery. And this guy sits next to me, and he starts to kind of be flirty, right? And before long, he's like, yeah, I'm a cop. And I mean, this guy was puffing. Like he was puffing. I got to hold on to his badge. Now, this guy was so loaded. He was so loaded. He did one of these Irish exits. And I mean, the guy could barely stand up, but he was driving his vehicle. He said, "How are you getting home?" And I lied and I said, "Probably a taxi." And I said, "What about you?" And he goes, "I take care of myself." And it's like, oh my God. And you say that out loud. And he did, he just disappeared. But you knew he was a cop as soon as you started talking to him. He was like this arrogant, maybe in his 40s. Yeah. I said to him, "What is it about guys in suits or like in cop uniforms that everyone likes?" He's like, "I don't know. What do you think?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I'm asking you." There's no way in hell I would have dated a cop. Are you kidding me? And he had no couth, like literally right in front of hubby, he's trying to slime me. It's like, oh my God. And he was married. A badge bunny. That makes sense because we call girls that chase after cowboys here buckle bunnies. So badge bunny makes sense. Cowboys are buckle bunnies. Yeah, and I was there's no way I would have dated a cop ever. I mean, a couple asked me out through life, and it's just like, I don't think so. Thank you. No. And then right behind one place that I lived in that area for about 10, 15 years, and right behind us was a cop's house. Well, they had at that house some of the biggest frickin' parties that I'd ever seen, singing Lion Sleeps Tonight at like 5 o'clock in the frickin' morning. It's like, oh my God, are you kidding me? But they like to suck them back, most of them. I've definitely got cop stories. Most of them are not good. Badge bunnies. Who wants to? No. I'd rather date a convict than a cop. No. No. And I mean, I've got family. One, and he was always like he retired, but he was a high-ranking cop in Calgary, and he was in charge of like the gang squad, and over years, right? He was in charge of homicide, all these different jobs. And I said to him once, actually, when my stepdad was passing, he came in, and good-looking, tall, great, big, good-looking guy. And I said to him, I said, "So what happens? Like, as soon as you put on your uniform, do you turn into a dickwad?" And he just kind of looks at me. "I'm not a cop anymore. I retired." Like, I'm just curious. Like, as soon as you put that uniform, do you turn into a dickwad? There would have absolutely have been badge bunnies after that particular one. In the jungle, the mighty jungle. That's it. That is it. And I love that song. I've got cop stories, but they all end up with me in cuffs. Oh my God, that's too funny. That is too funny. That sounds like a members live or a Discord chat. Oh, are they dickwads before they even join up? My brother-in-law is a desk jockey at our local jail. He thinks he's just a god. That's what happens. It's like, do you understand how many people truly are not envious of your position? And they seem to have no problem getting dates, but no, just not for me. right? But they have to follow you around. If you're someone like me that's lived all over the place, I have to put that relative in my pocket and carry him to the next town. I can't say, he was a cop in Calgary. Well, I'm living in like a totally different province. And he's been retired for what now? Oh, God. It's got to be about 15 years, I guess. But you know what was really interesting with that is I've had through life 2 people murdered that I've known, right? And he actually was in charge of both of those cases. So years later, it was really, really interesting to hear what he knew about some of this stuff. My brother is a retired cop. Sis still a cop. I have nothing to do with them. Complete arseholes. Yep, pizzas and donuts. Here you go, boys. Right? Thanks for doing such a wonderful job and not coming around. We barely see them here. They do their random look around, make sure no one's getting bothered, and that's it. Okay. Yeah, they definitely have a certain air about them, don't they? Well, let's hope that this next witness here makes a little bit more sense and not a complete waste of time of the rest of the morning, because what the hell is going on in her courtroom? Even though I haven't drank for years, I have to admit, every once in a while, dealing with this stuff is like, damn, I'd like a drink. Coffee with a cop event to raise money for certain things, hard pass. I remember going to one where it was to raise money, and the cops had to shave their heads, or you could lock them up in jail for a day, and a certain amount of money has to come in before that cop's released. Well, some of them could sit there forever, so their family has to pay for them. But yeah, hard pass. Hard pass. Coffee with a cop. We have guns and hoses. Oh my goodness. Well, I truly hope the rest of this morning isn't a wipeout because Lolly is dumb. I can't help but have a lot of opinions about him and, well, the whole thing. I don't even think that we should be sitting here. I don't think there's enough. So I'm noticing that there is 45 of my friends from Twitter. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss anything. I would really, really appreciate it. Or hit the thumb. Come on over and bam on that thumb for me. I get an awful lot. We've only got a few this morning, but there's been times where I have 300 or so from Twitter, and I totally appreciate it. But come on over, smash that thumb for me, and subscribe. I would love to have you. We would all love to have you. Good morning to Maxie. Yeah, Lally needs a new profession. He has no passion for his job. He does not. Yeah, good day, Twitter friends. Hello, hello, hello. Yeah, he does. That little 5 sprouts. That he tries to make himself look all hip. Yeah, I'm still in a daze over this morning's hearings. or hearing, I guess, is just blowing me away. What a morning in court. Bev, you just rock, or not. Yeah, somebody needs to buy Lolly a bzzz, bzzz. No. It had nothing to do with this. Lolly's hair got bored and left the building. I don't even understand why that was a thing. Why did that guy even position himself on the stand? And Lolly says, he's cut back from 100 witnesses to 40. Well, if it's 40 of these people that have no bearing on the case, what a complete waste of time. He's not bringing anything to the table. He's not bringing anything to the table. Yeah, it was totally bonkers. Yeah, it just blows me away how we spent our morning here. That's right. We learned that John has a good friend and that John kissed Karen. I think that's about it. It's a ploy by Bev and her corrupt cops. It's very obvious. I agree, Dingo. I mean, it's right smashing us in the face. That's what it almost comes down to, is it almost looks like Lolly is going, here, defense, take this. Here you go, take this. Does Lolly actually see what's going on here? That I mean, is he seeing things for what they are? And that's why he's such a waste of skin? Nobody did. Not a soul seen how he got onto that front yard. As far as we know. There's no witnesses, period, to see how John got out there. Yep. The cop across the street had a ring camera, but for whatever reason, it was not working that night. Prosecution hasn't proved a thing apart from how useless they are at collecting evidence in Boston. Congratulations, Doolally. Oh, lordy, lordy, lordy. Yeah. So nobody gets charged and the cops get off scot-free. It's very sus. The whole thing. I mean, it's a head scratcher as to why we are watching this trial. They need to have looked into that house. And they're saying they went into that house and they didn't even look around. Not even the boot room or wherever they went in. They did not look around to see if anything went on in that house. Because one of their friends were dead in the front yard. Oh, is that right? Our neighbors had a fire not long ago. Our cameras only picked up on us walking out a couple of times and not every time we went out. That's interesting. That's very interesting. That's who we need to see, Dingo. Where is the coroner? What's he going to say? I can imagine. I thought about that a couple days ago. Maybe they were all in it, including Karen, and they are going to make it so nobody gets held responsible. What about the perjury, Bev? It's not on her head. Does she care? Yep, the ring camera caught Watts out, or called them out. Ellie came to look at our video and even looked sus to us that there's missing footage. Yeah, I don't know. We haven't heard about that for a couple of days. She said she was going to deal with it yesterday, but of course she didn't. Caitlin has not come to the stand yet either. So there's that. Maybe they'll wait for her until they get this perjury figured out. Yes. He changed his report after nearly 2 years. The first time I've ever heard of a coroner doing that. Yeah. I don't understand. Everything has a question mark beside it. Everything that the prosecution is leaving another question mark after they're finished. You heard that Caitlin was meant to be up today. Now, how do they do that when her cohort when her buddy was on there lying their face off? How does that work? Cohort? Oh, Vinny was supposed to do a live last night and discuss the perjury chick with a body language expert, but he never came on. That's interesting. That's interesting. Okay. Yeah, I mean, it just is a complete head scratcher, isn't it, guys? Why is this even happening? I'm sitting here trying to wrap my head around it. And as we all know, and we've said it a couple of times now, this would never be happening if it was the defense. There's no way we would have spent all of this time to find out ultimately that John had a close friend who said they got along and was out with him that night. Possibly drove home drunk, picked up his kids. We don't know anything else. Was Emily great last night? I don't know. I don't watch her very often. I'm going to have to. She is smart as a whip. I ended up watching Lawyer You Know and a little bit on Delphi and their ish show. Long 10 minutes, Bev. Unreal, this woman. Her courtroom is a mess. Okay.
Your Honor, the Commonwealth call Miss Catherine Camerano.
Oh, no. Oh, please don't let this be the wife.
Reach right. You solemnly swear the evidence given in the court and carry the case down here and the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Thank you.
The Lawyer You Know guy, he looks like one of my exes quite a bit.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, whenever you're ready, Miss
Lolly.
Smiley.
Your hair, dude.
Good morning.
Could you please state your name and spell your last name?
Catherine Camerano, Camerano.
And where do you live?
Canton.
And how long have you lived in Canton?
Probably about since 2005, maybe 20 years, 2005, I think.
And who, if anyone, you live in Canton with?
My husband, Michael, and my 2 children.
And how old are you?
Right now, 13 and 16.
And starting with the 16-year-old, was that a boy or a girl?
Girl,
And the 13-year-old, was that a boy or a girl?
boy.
And as far as activities are concerned with your kids, do they play sports or they do other sorts of activities?
They play sports. Yep.
And which sports does your 16-year-old daughter?
Currently, right now, softball.
And has she played any other sports?
Oh, no,
She
it
played
is.
soccer. She played hockey for a little bit, but mostly soccer and softball.
And your 13-year-old son, what, if any, sports?
Hockey, hockey and baseball.
Why are we listening to this
Now-
woman?
You work, man?
I do.
What do you do?
I'm a nurse.
Your
And
husband
how
said
long
that.
have you been working as a nurse?
21 years.
And your husband, does he work?
He does.
And what does he do?
He's a laborer.
And how long has he been doing that?
Probably 25, maybe even 30 years, actually.
He's a laborer. Is that
And
it?
how long have the two of you been together?
Married
Yeah.
20 years? 20 years. 2004.
Now, ma'am, if I could turn your attention to January 28th, 2022 into January 29th, 2022. Do you recall those couple days?
Yeah.
And do you recall what days of the week they were?
It was Friday into Saturday night.
And starting with the Friday of the 28th, were you working that day?
I was working that night.
And sort of typically what kind of shift you work as
I work 7P to 7A, nights, mostly weekends.
the weekends would be sort of typically when you'd be at work?
Yes.
And around this time of January 2022, when you were at work, do you know what sort of your husband and your children would be doing typically on like a Friday night?
Friday night, they went to Johnny's house a lot, and the kids hung out, and they all just hung out together on a Friday night.
Now, starting with Johnny, who you referred to, you mean John O'Keefe, is that correct?
Yes.
How is it that you came to know John?
My husband got introduced to him, and then the girls started hanging out probably 2018, 4th grade. The boys around the same time when he moved to Meadows, probably around that time.
And so Mr. O'Keefe, he had a niece and a nephew of who he was a guardian, is that correct?
Correct.
Oh my God.
And he had a niece named Kaylee and a nephew named Patrick, correct?
Correct.
She has nothing to
They
do with the
lived him, is
case.
that correct?
Correct.
Now, with regard to his niece Kaylee and your daughter, how do they know each other?
They first met on the soccer team, probably soccer. Yes, they met soccer 4th grade. Or was it it could have been basketball. She played basketball when she was that little, Madeline. Basketball team, 4th or 5th grade. And then quickly by the 5th, 6th grade, they were like best friends attached at the hip.
And as far as Mr. O'Keefe's nephew Patrick, in relation to your son, were they the same age as well?
They played baseball together.
And outside of baseball, were they friendly as well?
Yes.
And so a typical Friday night would be you were at work and your husband and the kids would go over to Mr. O'Keefe's.
Correct.
You knew where Mr. O'Keefe's house was?
Yes.
And where was that?
On Meadows Ave.
About how far away from your house was Mr. O'Keefe's house on one house?
Maybe 2 miles, maybe. I don't know.
So fairly short distance?
Yes.
Now,
Why, Lolly? Why?
with regard to this specific Friday night, January 28th, you were at work and you know what sort of the plan was with reference to the rest of your family?
Michael, my son was going to play with a friend of his, a school play in the town, and Michael was going to Johnny's with Madeline, my daughter, and they were gonna hang out there for the night. And Michael and Johnny were gonna potentially go out.
Now, with reference to your daughter and Mr. O'Keefe's niece, Kaylee, what, if anything, around, specifically to that day, what, if anything, was sort of going on with them and their school?
They had just got into Bishop Vian High School that day.
And at this time in January 2022, what grade were they in?
They were in 8th, they were going into 9th that September.
And so they had been accepted to this private school, Bishop Vian, and got their acceptance letters that day.
Yep.
And what, if any, conversation do you recall having with Mr. O'Keefe in reference to that on that day?
They were just really excited about it. Everyone was really excited that they just got in.
Now, at some point, well, beyond sort of, if you could just sort of describe the nature of your relationship, and by you, I'm using the plural as far as you and your husband, with regard to Mr. O'Keefe.
He was our friend. He was really good to me and my kids.
And as far as the kids were concerned, what, if any, sort of interplay did you have with regard to his kids and he have with regard to
I worked weekends and he would take my kids to sporting. I would do a lot of the stuff during the week if I was around the practices. And him and my husband would always do the games. The kids used to call them my two dads. It was like they had a lot of fun together. It was like a well-oiled machine.
Now, through your friendship with Mr. O'Keefe, at some point did you come to know someone by the name of Karen?
Yes.
And who was Karen Reed in relation to Mr. O'Keefe?
She was his girlfriend.
And just to be clear, when we're talking about Karen Reed, do you see Ms. Reed in the courtroom?
I do.
Could you just identify as to where she's seated or an article?
Yeah, she's right there.
No, just ask the record to reflect identification of the defendant.
Yes.
Now, with regard to the defendant, Ms. Reed, prior to this date of January 28th, 2022, about how long had you known her?
Whenever they started dating, probably 2 years. During COVID. When was COVID? Probably 2 years.
So
right?
Sometime during the COVID pandemic, you met her?
Yeah, yep.
And as far as you were aware, did she live with Mr. O'Keefe and the children, or did she have somewhere else?
No, she had a house in Mansfield, but she stayed at Meadows a lot.
And so during the course around this time of January 2022, general time, about how often would you see Mr. O'Keefe?
Probably 3 days a week, I would say.
And sort of typically when you would see him, would that be sort of a game or house, your house?
Anything, drop off, pick up, his house, games, anything.
Now, as far as Mr. O'Keefe and Ms. Reed were concerned with regard to you and your husband, what, if any, socialization did you have sort of outside of the kids?
Yeah, we went out to eat. We went to a comedy show. I would socialize with them.
About how often would you do that?
Well, the kids were around mostly, but maybe a few times. I feel like the kids were usually always around.
Now,
What a waste of time.
at some point, did you become aware that your husband and Mr. O'Keefe had gone out that evening?
Yes.
And how did you become aware of that?
I don't know, either Michael told me or my daughter told me. One of them told me. I forget who.
And do you know where your
Oh,
husband
my
went that night?
word.
I don't remember if he told me exactly where he went.
And at some point, you're still at work, you're working an overnight, is that correct?
Yes.
And the rest of your family, being your husband and your kids, they came home at some point?
They did.
And how do you know sort of when or how they came home?
I have an alarm on my house So I know when somebody opens the door, I can check at work and it alerts me if the door's open, if the alarm is on, off, who puts it on, who puts it off, what doors are open, when the alarm is rearmed. And if I usually don't allow sleepovers, and even if I did, my husband would have called me at work.
Oh,
So fair to say there's a rule within your house that sleepovers don't happen unless you approve.
Yeah.
really?
Now,
Runs the show.
at some point, I'm going to turn your attention now to the morning of the 29th. At some point, while you were at work, did you receive a call from someone?
Yes.
And who, if anyone, called?
Karen.
And about what time was that?
Probably between 4 and 5.
And what, if anything, did the defendant say to you when she called you around 4 or 5?
She was just screaming, "Where's Mike? Where's Mike?"
And was that a typical sort of situation that you would get a call from the defendant at that time?
No, not at all.
And the screaming that you heard, or the phraseology of "where's Mike," is that something she said once or more than once or something?
She just kept saying it. She just kept saying, "Where's Mike?"
And what, if anything, did you say in response to that?
I was just like, hold on, calm down. And as I was doing it, I was rechecking like the alarm. I said, he's home with the kids. Let me call him. And at some point I hung up. I called my husband, like, I don't know, probably, it felt like 100 times.
Now, you're at work and when you get this call, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you recall sort of where you were, what you were doing when you got the call?
I was getting ready to draw like morning lab, so I knew it was between like 4 and 5 a.m. Somewhere early in the morning.
This, sort of screaming as far as "where's Mike," what, if anything, did the defendant indicate as to why she was asking?
John didn't come home.
And from your knowledge of John O'Keefe, was that something that was normal or no?
No.
I don't know. Mike is.
Now, during this sort of initial call with the defendant, what, if anything, did you hear sort of in the background of that call?
That first call? I don't think I heard anything in that.
Your memory exhausted as to that?
Yeah, I don't remember it.
May I approach you with this?
Yes.
And ma'am, what I'm going to do is I'm going to place a document for you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to direct your attention to this second paragraph on the page. If you could just read that to yourself.
Okay. Oh, okay, yeah. I didn't know if that was the.
Anything further, may I approach
Yep.
this retreat now?
Yes. Oh, yeah, sorry.
And so, Ms. Camerano, after reading what I just placed before you, is your memory refreshed as to what, if anything, you heard in the background of that
Yeah.
initial call?
I could hear Kaylee in the background.
And you hang up on that call, and then what did you do?
Call Michael. And
At any point when you're calling Michael, I think you said you felt like it was about 100 times. Did your husband Michael answer the phone?
he never answered. No.
And so after you called your husband many times, he didn't answer. What did you do then?
I called either Karen's phone or Kaylee's phone back. I texted John, I think, twice. And then I could, whoever's phone I called, I could hear Jen in the background, that someone had called Jen too.
So you were speaking on the phone with either the defendant or Kaylee, correct?
Yep,
And you could hear someone named Jen in the background.
yep, I could hear her in the background.
And when you say you could hear someone,
Like it sounded, sorry,
no. So just as far as Jen, who is that?
Jen McCabe. She was one of Madeline's basketball coaches, so I know her voice.
Heard her sort of voice on the sideline.
Yeah, yep.
Did you know her personally at all?
I knew her as Madeline's coach.
And at some point you were talking to Kaylee on the phone, correct?
Yes.
And what is it that you were saying to Kaylee at that time?
I was just saying to her, is everybody okay? And she said they're gonna go out looking for him. I think she said they were gonna go out looking, or she went out, she's gonna go out. No one knows where he is. And then I think I like hung up with her. And then at some point I maybe texted Kaylee or called, and I said, is Karen out alone? And she said, no, she's with Jen and Kerry. So I said, okay, as long as they're not alone.
Now, the second phone call, you're talking to Kaylee and you can hear the defendant talking to Ms. McCabe, is that correct?
Yes.
And you hear one side of the conversation or both sides of the conversation?
I don't really recall exactly. I felt like it was just like a lot of like screaming, like he's not home. I don't really recall 100%.
But as far as the screaming that you heard that he's not home, do you recall whose voice that was that you heard saying that?
It was Karen.
And beyond that, as far as the conversation that you overheard, what, if anything, specific about that conversation, in addition to that, do you recall?
I don't.
And while these phone calls are going on, again, you're at work, correct?
Correct.
So what is it that you're doing sort of in relation to your job while these phone calls are going back?
I'm trying to like in between draw labs for my patients, and then I'm like going in the back room, texting or calling, and then I'd go back out to the desk, out to the patients.
You mentioned that the defendant was sort of screaming when she was talking to you on the phone, and you heard her in the background when you were talking to Kaylee.
Yep.
Could you describe sort of, or how would you describe sort of her, and by her I mean the defendant's demeanor while you heard her on the phone?
She was just like frantically screaming. Just screaming. Where's Mike?
Now, during this time, you're working, you're dealing with patients, and you're going back and forth with patients on the phone.
Mm-hmm.
And in addition to speaking on the phone with the defendant and then with Kaylee, who, if anyone else, did you reach out to or did you talk to that morning?
I talked to Carrie Roberts in the morning at some point. I don't know if I called her, she called me, and she said that I think that he was going to the hospital, and then I called my husband and told him that Kaylee was home alone and that he should go get her because she was at the house alone.
Is it your understanding that your husband, Michael, then went to Meadows to pick up Kaylee?
Mm-hmm.
Is that yes?
Yes, sorry.
Now, you mentioned that at some point you spoke to Carrie Roberts, is that correct?
Yes.
How do you know Carrie Roberts?
I've known her since high school.
And as far as you grew up in the same town, is that correct?
No, I was friends with her cousin. So I had known her. And I've always known her. I've been friends with her for a while.
Just one moment, John.
Sure.
They get all the leeway they
May I
want.
approach the witness, John?
Yes.
Of course, lover boy.
Now, I'm going to show you what's been previously marked as Exhibit 48. And before I do that, I just need to show counsel what I'm showing. May I approach him?
Yes.
Showing you what's been marked as Exhibit 48, specifically on page 22. With respect to that box, white box sort of towards the top of the page, you see a listing as sort of participants of that conversation.
Yes,
That's a text conversation.
yes.
And who is sort of listed as the participant within that conversation?
Katie Camerano and JJ.
And is JJ another
JJ.
sort of name or nickname for John O'Keefe?
Yep,
And the content, there's two blue bubbles on the bottom of that page, is that correct?
correct.
And do you recognize the content of those bubbles?
Yes.
And what do you recognize those?
My text messages to him.
Those are text messages you just testified about as far as sending to John that morning.
Correct,
And both of them are from you with no response from Mr. O'Keefe.
correct.
And about what time are the two text messages sent to Mr. O'Keefe according to that document?
5:10.
May I approach this for retrieve now?
Yes.
Now, Ms. Camerano, you had mentioned in your testimony that you had some phone calls or conversations with Ms. Reed on the morning of January 29th, correct?
Correct.
May I approach again, Your Honor?
Yes.
Showing you another document there.
Mhm.
Ask that you look at that and look up when you're finished.
Yeah,
And that document, do those seem to reflect the calls that you have between yourself and the defendant, Ms. Reed, on that morning of the 29th?
yeah.
Objection, Your Honor. May we approach briefly?
Sure. Could I please see that?
Here we go. The defense is staying pretty quiet. So how many are you going to stare down Karen now? I really hope they're seeing all of the stuff that's going on with proper eyes, not purple goggles. I hope that his brother sees what's going on. I hope John O'Keefe's parents see what's going on. Karen's natural set face is just, she always looks cranky, but I don't think that means she is.
Thank you.
There is that, Tony. It's a woman this time.
And so, Ms. Camerano, from that document, does that seem to be the phone calls and the timing of the phone calls between yourself and Ms. Reed that morning?
Okay. Yes.
May I approach again, Your Honor?
Yes.
I want to introduce in a minute the next exhibit.
Any objection, Mr. Jackson?
Not at this time, Your Honor.
All right, thank you.
Did she actually respond? She is serious, Ruthie. Yep.
Sure. turning that to you, which is now marked as Exhibit 51. Your Honor, with the court's permission, I would request to publish that to the jury on the screen.
Okay.
I wouldn't want to be in her position for anything. Not popping pills, taking lozenges, guys. Just thought I'd explain myself.
Thank you, Ms. Canton.
Thank you, Madam Court Reporter.
Oh, thank you, love.
And I'm sorry, Ms. Gilman, if you could please just see if you could mark that just so we'll.
Mr. Lally, keep your voice up and step aside so all jurors could see this, please.
Yes. Just before we get to what's up on the screen, is that what you have before you as Exhibit 51?
Yes.
You know, Ms. Camerano, starting from sort of as far as the order of these, do you see sort of to and from and sort of date times on there?
Yes.
And does it appear as if the earlier times are sorted towards the bottom and then it goes on in time and chronology towards the top?
Yes.
Ms. Gilman, if you could scroll to sort of the bottom of the box. Now, with reference to essentially there are 6 boxes, am I correct in that?
Correct.
And with regard to box 6, if you could just tell the jury sort of.
It says 1/29/2022, 4:49 a.m. to Katie Camerano, answered 2 minutes and 51 seconds.
And the box above that, number 5.
It looks like I called her at 4:56 on 1/29 for 2 minutes and 57 seconds, answered.
And the box above that, number 12, please.
I called her 5 a.m., 2 minutes and 4 seconds, answered. And then I called her again at 5:32 for 8 seconds. That was answered. And then I called her again at 5:34, was missed. At 5:34 was missed. And then I called her again at 6:44 and 49 seconds, and that was not answered.
Okay. What's that got to do with anything?
Approach just to retrieve, Your Honor.
Yes.
You can take that down.
Guys, what's that all about? Nothing?
Now, with respect, Cameron, is your testimony that in addition to the phone calls that you have with the defendant, you also have some text back and forth that morning as well?
Correct.
And Your Honor, may I approach?
Yes.
Of course, lover boy. I know, Dandy. It's ridiculous. Exactly.
Ms. Cameron, I'm showing you a document, asking if you could just take a look at that and look up when you finish.
People in the house didn't even have to give their phones up. And then one cop told them to get rid of them.
Yep.
And do you recognize what that what's in that document?
Yes.
What do you recognize it?
It's my text to Karen.
And with respect to
Okay,
the
she
sort of
talked to
first page of
Karen.
that, is there also similar to the ones I showed you with regard to Mr. O'Keefe? Is there a listing as far as the participants in that conversation?
Yes.
And who does it state?
It's Karen Reed and Katie Camerano.
May I approach again?
Yes.
I'm off the seat to introduce in a minute the next exhibit.
No objection, Mr. Jackson?
No objection, Your Honor.
All right, thank you.
What a shite show. I have no idea how this affects or has any bearing on this case.
Cameron, returning what's now been marked as Exhibit 52 to you. And Your Honor, with the court permission, I would publish this on the screen for the jury as well.
Okay.
Okay, lover boy. Okay. Whatever you want. Take as much time as you need.
Now, Ms. Camerano, if I could direct your attention to sort of the content of this. There's blue bubbles and green bubbles, is that correct?
Correct.
And is there an indication on there as far as who the message is from and who the message is to?
The blue bubbles would be me texting Karen.
And if you could, starting with the first bubble on page 1, if you could just describe to the jury, and we'll sort of go through it as far as who the bubble, who the text is from, and what the content is.
That's from me. I'm asking Karen, are you okay?
And Ms. Gilman, if you could scroll down. And this next bubble.
Go back home so you're safe with Kaylee. He will end up home. I bet he's on someone's couch.
And the next bubble down, Ms. Gilman.
What's going on, Karen?
If you could scroll down a little further, Ms. Gilman.
I'm driving around with Carrie and Jen.
And this is the text that you received from
From-
to yourself.
Yes.
And is there a time on that associated with when that text was sent?
I can't read that from there. 5:53, does it say?
5:53 a.m., is that correct?
Oh, 5:53, yes.
Ms. Gilman, if you could scroll down to the next message.
What has this got to do with anything, you guys?
Okay, is one of them driving?
And just to be clear, this is you texting.
I'm texting Karen, yes. Is one of them driving? And then,
And why were you texting that, or why were you concerned about that?
because she was so hysterical, I didn't want her driving.
And Ms. Gilman, if you could scroll down to the next message. And what, if any, response did you receive from this group?
Yes.
And Ms. Gilman, if you could, scroll down to the next.
And I said, okay, keep me posted.
Gilman, if you could scroll down.
Wow, you guys.
At his brother's or mom's ? Or the station he works at.
Both of those messages, about what time were those?
6 a.m.
And what, if any, if Ms. Gilman, if you could scroll down, and then what, if any, response did you receive from the defendant, Ms. Reed, following those things?
I don't think so. His bro is in West Bridgewater, W. Bridgewater.
Ms. Gilman, if you could scroll down again. Next message, ma'am.
Right, I'm sorry, I'm just brainstorming.
Next green button, ma'am.
It's okay.
Why does all this matter?
And the blue bubble.
Oh, Lord.
Any luck?
And that was a text you sent at approximately what time now?
6:34.
And Ms. Gilman, if you could scroll down to the next one. And what was Ms. Reed's response?
He's dead.
And again, at what time did you receive that text message?
6:34.
Oh, my goodness.
Ms. Gilman, if you could scroll down. Yeah,
What, Karen, are you serious?
that's a blue bubble, your response to her last statement.
Yes.
Ms. Gilman, scroll down again.
And then Karen, do you have any idea where he is, or did you find him?
Lastly, Ms. Gilman, if you could scroll down one more time.
He was in the snow.
And that last message that you received, what time was that?
That was at 6:36.
I'm assuming you can take that down. And Mr. Officer, thank you.
So it makes no sense if she did this that she would go looking for him with buddies. It just
Following
exactly.
that text message, the last one about 6:34 a.m., what, if any, other communication did you have with the defendant that morning?
Nothing.
What, if any, other communication did you have with the defendant since then?
None.
Now, as far as any of the other people that you spoke of, as far as talking to that morning, Ms. Roberts or Kaylee, did you have any further conversation with them in regard to what was going on?
No.
I have no idea why this woman is sitting here again, but frickin' Bev.
If I may have just one moment, Your Honor. Nothing further for this witness, Your Honor.
All right. Cross-examination.
Are you flipping kidding me, man? What did we learn from her now? Brick
Hi, how
wall.
are you?
I'm good. I'm good. To Mr. Lally last point, after that series of text messages that you had early in the morning on January 29th, 2022, you said you didn't hear from Ms. Reed or didn't have any communication with her after that. Is that right?
Yeah. Yes.
Did you reach out to her text message wise?
No.
Were you aware that her phone had been seized shortly thereafter from her?
No.
Thank you. That's all I have.
All right, Ms. Camerano. Oh, there's nothing else, Mr. Lally, right? All right, Ms. Camerano, you're all set. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
What a waste of time.
Your next witness, Mr. Lally?
Yes, Your Honor. The Commonwealth to call Mr. Kurt Roberts to the stand.
I thought so too. Oh, Karen looks happy. Is this gonna at least make sense? Or are we just wasting our time more with another person?
Do solemnly swear the evidence you give the court and jury in the case now and hearing should be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Thank you. Just nice and loud into that microphone, thanks. Great.
All right, whenever you're ready, Mr. Lally.
Thank you. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Would you please state your name and spell your last name?
Kurt Roberts, Roberts.
And where do you live, sir?
Canton, Mass.
And how long have you lived in Canton?
About 12 years now.
And who, if anyone, do you live in Canton with?
I live with my wife and 2 children.
And your wife, what is your wife's name?
Kerry.
And how long have the two of you been married?
We've been married 15 years.
And you mentioned you have 2 children, is that correct?
Yes.
And how old are you?
My daughter is 14 and my son is 12.
Lordy,
And
lordy.
do you work, sir?
I do.
And what do you do?
I'm a heavy equipment operator.
About how long have you been doing it?
26 years.
And your wife, Carrie, does she work as well?
She does.
And what does she do?
She's a executive assistant.
And do you know about how long she's been doing
I
it?
think about 18 years.
And
Another nothing burger, I'm sure.
if I could
Oof, duh.
turn your attention to the evening of January 28th, 2022. Do you recall that day?
I do.
And to recall anything about what you were doing, do you recall what day of the week it was?
I know it was a Friday night.
And earlier in the day, do you recall anything specific about what you were doing that day?
Gee, no, I don't. Nothing stands out.
And at some point in time in the evening, where were you initially?
Excuse me?
So at some point in time in the evening, were you at home?
Yes, I was at home.
And while you were at home, who, if anyone, reached out?
Michael Camerano and John O'Keefe.
And starting with Michael Camerano, how do you know?
I grew up with him since sixth grade. We're both from the same town, Milton.
So the two of you grew up in Milton together. You've known him essentially since then.
Yes,
How would you describe sort of your relationship with Mr. Camerano?
we're friends.
And does he have any children around the age of your two children?
Yes, he is, I believe, a 16-year-old daughter and a 12-year-old son.
And his son and your son, do they do any sort of activities together?
They did. They played baseball together.
Now, you mentioned John O'Keefe as well, correct?
Yes.
And how did you know John O'Keefe?
When his sister and brother-in-law had passed, he had moved into the house that they lived in my neighborhood. And my wife knew him previously and introduced me in.
And the house that he moved into with regard to where his sister and brother-in-law lived, where was that in relation to where you lived?
An eighth of it, like not far, very easily walking distance, maybe not far.
And the house that Mr. O'Keefe moved into, who, if anyone, did he initially live there with when he moved?
He moved in there with the two, his niece and nephew.
So his niece and nephew from the couple that had passed.
Yes,
And you had a niece named Kaylee, is that correct?
yes,
A nephew named Patrick.
yes.
And with respect to his nephew Patrick, how old was he in relation to your son and Mr. Camerano's?
Same age,
And as far as the activities,
Same-
baseball and stuff,
same baseball team. Yep.
so all three of the kids, played baseball together for several years.
Yes,
Now, at some point, did Mr. O'Keefe move away from that house that was?
he did. He did. He moved to One Meadows.
And sort of from your house, where was that in relation to your house?
Probably 2 or 3 miles. A lot further away.
A lot further away, sort of on the Stoughton side of Canton, is that correct?
That's correct.
And do you recall about what year it was that the kids moved over to Meadows?
Oh, maybe 2019, maybe. I'm not sure of that.
Now, at some point, of course, or through your knowing Mr. O'Keefe, did you come to know someone by the name of Karen? And when was it in relation to January 28th, 2022? About how long before that was it that you met Karen?
Probably maybe a year or two.
About a year or two before?
Yes, I don't recall exactly.
Do you recall when it was that you first met her?
I think she might have came to my house, maybe with John. Okay.
Now, as far as, what, if anything, did you know as far as the relationship between Miss Reed and Miss Rose?
I don't understand.
Who was Miss Reed to Mr. O'Keefe?
Oh, girlfriend. Sorry.
That's okay. Nothing is your fault. It's entirely my question. Okay. So, with respect,
What a
and just
shitty
sort of
lawyer
clarify,
Lolly is.
Talking about, do you see Miss Reed in the courtroom today?
Yes, I do.
If you could just identify as seated or an article of clothing she's wearing.
She's right there.
And again, just as a record reflect identification.
Yes.
By the witness. Thank you. Now, as far as their relationship, that, and by they, I mean Mr. O'Keefe and Ms. Reed, is that something that you talked to Mr. O'Keefe about?
No.
And sort of vice versa, as far as your relationship with your wife, is that something that you talked to Mr. O'Keefe about?
No.
Now, with regard to that particular evening, January 28th, 2022. You mentioned at some point that Mr. Camerano and or Mr. O'Keefe reached out to you.
They did.
And what was that in regard to? What was that conversation?
They reached out. They were at McCarthy's, the bar in Canton Center. And they wanted me to come up. And I was saying, I didn't want to. I wanted to stay in because there was a storm coming. And then he called me a pussy. And I, sorry, I can't let that happen. So I had to go.
Fair enough.
So I had to go up there. And
Do you recall who it was that called you that?
it was Michael Camerano.
Let the record reflect. Okay. You receive that text and you go to CF McCarthy's, is that right?
That's right.
And you mentioned that's in Canton Center.
Yes.
About how far a drive is that from your house to CF McCarthy's?
2.5, maybe 3 miles at best.
And do you recall about what time it was that you received that now infamous text and you go make your way to CF McCarthy's?
Yes, it was about 20 past 8.
Is that a place that you had been to before?
Not often, but I have been there before.
When you arrive to CF McCarthy's, who, if anyone, that you know is sort of there when you get there?
John O'Keefe and Michael Camerano.
And if you could, for the jury, just describe sort of what you know of sort of the inside of CF McCarthy's as far as you walk in the door and what is the layout of the bar?
Walk in the door, go to the left, and the bar's right in front of you. It's a big square bar. And then the bathrooms are in the back, and there's tables off to the left.
And where in relation to the bar and the tables and what you described were Mr. O'Keefe and Mr. Camerano? When you
And walking to the left, they were on my left.
And the area where you came up to and where they were, is that essentially sort of the same area that you and the group that you were with stayed in for most of the night?
Yes.
And if you recall, so you went out to a bar, fair to say you had something, correct?
Yes.
Recall what you were drinking that night?
I believe it was a Bud Light.
Do you recall whether that was draft or a bottle or something?
It was a bottle.
That's sort of typically what you would drink when you go out?
Back then, yes.
And with regard to Mr. Camerano and Mr. O'Keefe, do you recall what they were drinking that night?
I believe the same as me. I believe. I wasn't much paying attention to that, but that's what they normally would drink.
Now, with the with the court's permission, if I could publish to the jury portions of what's been marked as Exhibit 50, the CF McCarthy video.
Okay.
Now, Ms. Gilman, if I could ask for the second video. And if I could ask you to push it forward to 34 minutes and 10 seconds. And if you could pause it there just a moment. Now, Mr. Roberts, direct your attention to the screen and what's been marked as Exhibit 50. Also, I believe there should be a laser pointer on the desk in front of you. So if you just click on that button and point it in a direction, you can sort of highlight it. So if I could ask you, first of all, do you recognize what's depicted up on the screen as Exhibit 50?
Yes.
And what do you recognize it to be, sir?
I see John right there and Michael right there.
And does this appear to be consistent with what you recollect as far as the interior of CF McCarthy on January 20th?
Yes.
And this area that you just pointed out to as far as where Mr. O'Keefe and Mr. Camerano is that the area where you just testified to they essentially were during the time that you...
Yes, it is.
Now, with respect to Mr. O'Keefe, you can see sort of what he's wearing in this video, is that correct?
Yes,
And the clothing, at least as far as you can see, is that the clothing that you observed Mr. O'Keefe to be wearing that night?
yes, that was what he was wearing.
And Ms. Gilman, if you could, I would ask just to play this from the 34:10 mark until 35. Pause there just a moment. The gentleman that just came in through the door, do you recognize him, sir?
Yes, I do.
And who do you recognize him?
That's me.
So that was about the time that you arrived, is that correct?
Yes.
Ms. Gilman, if you could just continue with another 30 seconds. Directing your attention still up to the screen, Mr. Roberts, there's another individual around yourself, Mr. O'Keefe and Mr. Camerano, is that correct?
Yes.
And do you recognize who that person is?
At the time, I didn't know. He doesn't look the same in this picture right now, but I believe it's Sully.
And that's someone at this time on January 28th, you didn't know who that was?
No, I did not.
You now do?
I do now, yes.
Who do you know to be in relation to sort of yourself, Mr. Camerano and Mr. O'Keefe?
Well, I know his son played baseball on my son's baseball team. And I met him that night. We were talking.
This would have been the first time that you had met this person you now know as Sully.
Yes.
Thank you. Now, with reference to this evening, at some point, who, if anyone else, sort of came into the bar and joined you?
Karen Reed.
And that was sometime after you had initially arrived, is that correct?
I believe so, yes. It was after I had already been there, I believe.
And Ms. Gilman, if I could, from the same exhibit, but going to the fourth video down. And if I could ask you to bring it up to 22 minutes and 20 seconds. If you could just pause. Now, as far as Ms. Reed, you see Ms. Reed in this video?
Yes, I do.
And if you could, just using that laser pointer direct your attention, where you see Ms. Reed?
Right there.
Now, Mr. Roberts, you were, fair to say, a little reluctant to come out that evening, is that correct?
That's correct.
And as far as timing, about how long was it that you stayed at CF McCarthy's before you left?
It's a good hour. 1 hour.
An hour or so?
So I was home by about 10:15. I was home.
And if you recall, about how many beers did you have while you were there?
Probably 3 or 4.
And what you were drinking, was that, as far as amount was concerned, was that the same, less, more so than sort of the other people that you were with?
Probably one more. I would think. I kind of drank them kind of fast because I was taking off.
So you may have lapped them by a round or something?
Sure, yes.
Now, you mentioned what you and Mr. O'Keefe and Mr. Camerano were drinking. What, if anything, did you observe Ms. Reed to be drinking?
It was a clear glass with probably a lime in it. I'm assuming a vodka tonic, maybe. I'm not positive what it was, but it was a clear glass with.
Okay. And from your prior sort of interactions or socialization with Ms. Reed, is that something that you typically drink?
Yes, I guess I would say.
And about what time was it again that you left?
I think I left about 10 o'clock. Took me a few minutes to get home, so.
And with regard to when you left, did you sort of announce that to anybody, or how did you?
I usually don't, because then I'll have to deal with it again, but when we walked out, me and Michael Camerano, I believe, about the same time. I might have been a minute or two before him, that's all.
So you sort of exit and leave, and then at some point in time, around the time that you left, Mr. Camerano left as well.
That's right.
And Ms. Gilman, from what's up here is Exhibit 50, if I could ask you to just play from this point, so about 22 minutes and 50 seconds. And thank you, Ms. Gilman, you can take that. You're a good bond, correct?
I believe so, yes.
So fair to say that was about the time that you left. And with regard to during the time that you were at McCarthy's with this group, including yourself, Mr. O'Keefe, Mr. Camerano, and Ms. Reed, how would you describe sort of the general tone or demeanor of the group while you were there?
Everything very, very normal. Just a few friends out having some drinks. Nothing that stands out.
No arguing, no anything?
No.
And as far as the clothing that I asked you about with regard to what Mr. O'Keefe was wearing, when you were there that night, did you notice anything as far as tears in the clothing or any dishevelment, anything like that?
No, I didn't notice anything.
And when you were there and you were talking to Mr. O'Keefe, what, if any, sort of injuries or anything about him did you note as far as his face or anything else that you could see?
Nothing, no.
Now, once you left, where did you go?
I went home.
And do you recall when you got home? I think you've already said it, but about what time was it that you got home?
But I think 10:15 would be my best guess.
When you got home, who, if anyone else from your house, from your family, was there?
I believe my wife and kids were there. They're up in bed, but they weren't downstairs.
And at some point, did you go to bed that evening?
I did.
And about what time was it?
Probably when I saw the snow start coming down. Probably 11:30, 12, maybe midnight.
And about the time you mentioned that you had been aware that there was a storm coming, correct?
Yes.
About the time that you went to bed, around midnight or so, what, if anything, did you observe? Did you look outside or see anything?
It was snowing. So
And in relation to that, what, if anything, did you hear while you were in the house, sort of making your way to bed?
The wind was hitting the windows. You just knew it was the storm.
It was 3 miles per hour at its worst.
Now, you go to sleep.
Alrighty
with your wife,
then.
correct?
That's right. Yes.
The next morning on the 29th, what, if anything, is it that wakes you up?
A voice on my wife's phone was yelling, like screaming, frantic. It wasn't, and that woke me up. So I asked, what is that?
And initially, did you recognize that voice on your wife's phone?
I didn't recognize it, but I just couldn't make out the words. But it was just a screaming.
And could you hear anything as far? You couldn't make out the words?
I couldn't make out no.
And at some point, did you recognize that voice or come to find out who was on the other end of the phone?
Yes, I did. It was Karen Reed.
And about what time of the morning was that?
I'd say 5 o'clock would be a good guess.
And as far as you wake up, you hear the screaming, what happened?
My wife gets up, she starts getting all crazy and then putting her clothes on and running out. I'm telling her not to go because the weather was pretty bad at that point. And of course she goes.
So she doesn't listen to you and she continues to get dressed and go?
Yes.
And when you say the weather was pretty bad at that point, can you expound upon that as far as what you saw?
It was snowing. It was snowing. It was very windy. It was snowing heavy.
No, it was not.
And your wife, Carrie, did she say where she was going?
Said, John's missing and I got to go. I don't know exactly what she said, where she was going.
And from the time that you initially sort of wake up around 5 a.m. or so to the screaming on the phone to the time that your wife, Ms. Roberts, leaves your house, how much time had elapsed between those two things?
By the time I woke up until she left, I'd say 15 minutes.
And when your wife leaves the house and she's driving, is that correct?
She was.
And do you recall which car she took?
She took her car, Ford Explorer.
That's an SUV, is that correct?
Yes.
Do you recall what color the Ford Explorer was?
It's gray.
And then you just put it in 4-wheel drive and go. It's not a big deal.
Now, after she leaves, when is the next time that you spoke to your wife?
She called me on the phone. I forget. I can't really recall exact times now. They tell me that they found John. He's in the ambulance. They bring him to the hospital. And she was going to get Mr. and Mrs. O'Keefe.
And by Mr. and Mrs. O'Keefe, who did you understand that?
John's parents.
Did you know John's parents?
I did.
Did you know where they lived?
I did.
And where did they live?
In Braintree.
So your wife calls you, tells you Mr. O'Keefe's in the ambulance and she's going to Braintree to get his parents.
That's right.
And after you heard that, what is it that you did next?
I believe I snowblowed the driveway, got it ready because I knew she's going to come home in a mood.
To clear your driveway.
So she could, yes, because it was, yes.
Now, when you go out to clear the driveway at the time that your wife calls you, about how much snow was in the driveway at that point?
I'd say there was drifts of at least a foot or so. It was pretty good. It was a lot.
No, it was not. We've seen the video.
Tough to get the car in.
And if you know about what time was it that your wife was
right?
Eight o'clock. I don't know exact time.
And when you say 8 o'clock,
Oh
you
my
mean 8 o'clock in the morning or night?
A.M.
8 a.m.
Do they not realize we've seen the videos? We've seen what it looked like
Can I
out
have
there.
Just one moment, Your Honor.
Yes.
Oh, Lally, this guy's just a waste again. What a waste of time.
No further questions for this witness, Your Honor.
All right,
What did
cross-examination.
we learn, guys? What did we learn? F all.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Mr. Roberts, you and I have never met, correct?
Correct.
That night that you went out to CF McCarthy's, where you were sort of pressured or goaded into going out, you did get a chance to observe John O'Keefe at the bar, correct?
I did, yes.
Did you ever see him wearing a puffy jacket?
Never.
Did you ever see a puffy jacket around his chair that he was sitting in?
Not that I recall, no.
Did you ever see him holding a puffy jacket?
No.
Now, you noticed on the video, one of the last videos that Mr. Lally played for you, that prior to your making the Irish exit there, you did have some interaction with Karen Reed, correct?
I believe so at the end.
You saw that the two of you were at one point face to face.
I did for a brief.
Yes, it was, maybe 10 or 20 seconds.
Okay.
Does that sound fair?
It does.
And when you were face to face, you were looking at her and she was looking at you, correct?
Yes.
And there was some type of interchange between the two of you?
Maybe I was just saying bye. I don't recall. I don't
You
know.
probably don't remember the specifics of
No, I don't.
what the conversation was, but there appeared to be some type of small conversation.
I saw her from the video, yes.
And while you were speaking to her, you had no indication that she was slurring her words in any way, correct?
I didn't think so, no.
No. Her eyes didn't appear to be bloodshot and glassy, correct?
Correct.
She wasn't swaying or stumbling in any way, correct?
Correct.
She didn't appear to be confused in her thinking or her speech.
She did not.
She appeared to be normal, correct?
Yes.
There was nothing about her demeanor or her interaction with you that would lead you to believe that she was under the influence of alcohol at that time.
No, not.
And during the time that you spent with them at the bar, you didn't see any evidence of any problems between Karen and John O'Keefe?
I did not.
No arguments or bickering or anything like that?
No.
Neither one of them was complaining about the other, correct?
Correct.
Were you able to see any of the affection between the two of them, either physically or with regard to what they were saying?
I didn't see any.
It seems like you were more concentrated on.
I was talking with the guy.
We're talking with Mike at the bar. And, okay. But you had known Karen, or at least known of her, and had some interactions with her for, I believe your testimony was about a year or two?
Yes.
During that time, there was some interaction with Karen at your house because there were pickups and drop-offs that had to be made?
Yes.
And you would